I think that there's a line of that's really important to hold for people, right? Like, I think it's really easy to start giving up some ground on that with a couple things in your life. Like, I have a job I don't love, but it's good.
Yep.
It's good. And it covers the family thing and it takes care of finances, but I don't love it.
Yeah.
And so like, you've given up a foot on something that like you can hold the line and be like, I will do a thing I like.
Yeah.
People do it.
Or you can transition into it, and you can. I mean, that's partly being unreasonable as well, because right, like there's only 24 hours in a day. How are you going to get this done? And then depending on your situation, training, kids, fun, everything else, like there it goes. Like there you go, being unreasonable again. Where somebody else is like, I'm going to bed at 9. Well, I'm going to stay up till 11 because I got to get this done.
Because I have things to get done.
Yeah.
Right. And like we're not debating this. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't really need input. This is what I have to do. And so I'm going to.
There's something that's so dope about that, man. I mean, like, even like, shit, you were just in Dubai with Steffi. Like, the fact that she's just kind of put her foot down and been like, yo, like, this is what I'm doing. And that's the kind of thing when I see it, I'm like, That's
exactly it for me, too. It's like, what a fucking unreasonable thing for you to do. Is to transition into into being a professional boxer.
Yeah.
It's not even that, like, I can't say trying to be a professional boxer. She said 2 fights now where she's fought people who fight and has been paid for it. That is professional boxing.
And is handling it. Not like one of these dudes that's, picking it up for a minute or whatever.
No.
I mean, like, at least from what I see.
She's full in.
Yeah.
It's fun to watch that unreasonable lunatic go into a sport, and also with such a head start of resources.
Yeah.
Because she can afford a coach. Right. Like, because we were at the fight, one of the things I watched that I really caught my eye was these 2 guys, these 2 Georgian dudes who fought. I think they shared gloves.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Like, I think after the match, the other guy took the other ones. Like, both of them took a beating, but like went the distance. And like, their coach looks like one of their dads.
Yeah.
Like, they're in.
So actually that's another level of just being unreasonable, right? Just being able to sink in.
Like those dudes are fighting their way to get help to fight more.
Yeah.
Right. Like they have to be able to fight to prove a point that someone's interested to help them. Whereas someone in Steffi's position is already, the doors are completely open.
Yeah. But I'll say this too, though, even thinking about kind of the world she came from, like West Side, like there were guys that they reportedly sleeping in their car just to train there.
Oh, for sure, right?
Yeah,
for sure. Like she gets that obsession, but because she's done such a great job business wise and all these other things, like it's great that you can transition into a thing and be like, okay, so I'm the only problem.
Yeah,
I can see how far this goes, and it's fully on me. Because I don't have another excuse of the resources or access to someone or a coach or any of that.
Man, like removing excuses. Like so many people put so many excuses and just obstacles in their way. So, I mean, when you think about it like that, when you couch that whole thing like that, that makes a lot of sense. And for me, again, like I just hear it and I just get fired up. And those are the things that I'm trying to chase. So like being here today and seeing your operation, like now I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. I see what's going on. And this is the direction you kind of gotta move.
Dude, I like anyone who's ever wanted to come and like, hey, do a podcast. Like if they want to do it over Zoom, I do them. I don't like doing them.
Yeah.
Because they're, And I've traveled a lot to do podcasts. And I feel like that's part of like, fuck man, I paid dues like to do this, to get guests and go get on people's shows and all that. And so like anyone who wants to record, if you want to come here, we can use my studio.
Yeah.
Like I will happily try to share Stoke with you on like what can be built and how my road to getting here has gone.
I think that, man, like it's funny, like talking about the internet and when we were talking about earlier, social media, like all the ways we could have used this to get better. And that's, what we're trying to do, what I'm trying to do. And then everybody out, not everybody, but there's a lot of people out here who are doing the exact opposite. And you find every obstacle to put in your way. And I just can't seem to wrap my head around it anymore.
I think it's still really tough for people to believe that anything's possible. because it's hard to open those doors. It's easy to think that there's like an unbreakable barrier.
Yeah.
And with that said, like, I'm aware of what gifts I was given to start the path I'm on.
Mm-hmm.
Like being born in America, one of those great gifts that I got
for sure
in the 80s, right? And like, for whatever reason, can't put my finger on it, but I don't know why I adopted doing social media stuff early.
Yeah, that's definitely
right.
A key.
That like I was doing it when people were like, "Oh, this is a thing."
Even just using YouTube, man. I mean, it's social media, but like just using YouTube early. That's something that I never would have even, not that I had anything to do at the time, but never would have crossed my mind.
No. Well,
so,
and the reason it started, I was recording videos of me throwing to show guys that I was throwing against, because none of us have coaches.
Yeah. That's actually how I started my Instagram. Perfect. I kept it private, and it was my training log. It was my legitimate training log, trying to figure out like this whole, big guy run fast, lift heavy thing. And before I found some coaching that actually helped you do that, but that was me trying to figure it out on my own.
Yeah.
Like, how can you be 220 pounds and run a 13-minute 2-mile, 12-minute 2-mile? And
I sure can.
It's pretty hard. I mean, there's some freaks out there to do it. There's a guy I'm watching right now. His name's Hunter. He's a complete monster. I don't know where they got this kid. He ran I shouldn't call him a kid, but he's ran a 2-minute, 11-minute 2-mile.
Whoa.
11-minute 2-mile the other day. And then
he's big?
He's not a big dude, but then he's deadlifting like in the high fives for reps.
Okay.
He did a video where he did 315 on squats for 50 reps, unbroken. And so, but anyway, that's how I started my whole social media journey. It had nothing to do with business or anything else. It was literally just it was this training log. So
yeah, same, right? And but now that door is open. Like, it'll never go back. That cat will never go back in the bag. That this is a viable way for people to make a living. That we are craved for information and entertainment so much.
Oh yeah,
that you can find the exact specific niche. And there's a person in it.
There's some rabbit holes to go down.
Of course. Like, man, I get super stoned and think about it, right? Because like, I understand the fitness game and I understand who the players are. I understand how different companies work, because then you have strength fitness and then you have bodybuilding fitness and then you have Fitspo stuff. And then you have different supplement companies that kind of play to each, and who the manufacturers are and all these type of things, right? And like who the personalities are. But strength has the same as bodybuilding. Like, there's those guys.
Yeah.
And so I have to believe that soccer also works the exact same way. Or
I believe
the one I land on is like whoever designs those piss splash guards and urinals. Because there's more than one company that manufactures these.
Yes, for sure.
Which means there's a competitive field. Which means someone's good at it. Like, I'm the piss splash guard game. I got it on lock. Like, some dude's trying to develop a better design.
There's probably an Instagram for him.
I'm sure. He's probably killing it. Like, they go to conventions for like Cintas and stuff like that, and he's got a line at a booth because he's developed something.
Man, I saw on Instagram recently. It was just like food. It was something strange. And I saw the one on Rogan where he's talking about the guy that does ramen and watches together. And so, I mean, there's got to be something for everybody out there, I guess, for niche wise. But I mean, now using it for a business, I mean, and just,
you have to.
I kind of use it as my personal blog too. I mean, that's more of what my personal page is versus the Warpath page.
Right.
It's kind of like, I'll sprinkle some stuff in there, but a lot of times it's just, this is my mini blog.
So what about Warpath, man? I know you've been running it for a couple years now, and I imagine as you're transitioning, more and more effort's going to go to that.
So we just did a pre-sale, and I'm kind of using that as the measuring stick for everything. And so I'm pretty happy with it. I still need about, I'll say double of what we did. And, but I think a lot of that is just things I'm not utilizing. And then again, coming out here to learn and talk and like email marketing.
You're still working a full-time job doing another thing.
Oh, 100%. But, I'm always going to look for more.
Yeah.
Like, how can I find more? How can I try and be a little bit more efficient? Which is, part of the problem when you first start something. Like, even just trying to learn this email marketing thing instead of just diving in this time.
Right.
Right. Because the last time I dove in, I paid a price.
Yeah.
Which is fine. But this time I was like, I got a little extra time. But then now kind of seeing it, it's like, now, well, how can I automate it, for lack of a better term. But not, you know, I still want it to be authentic and real and my actual deal.
Well, you can do both.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like, how do I fit this into this box? Again, like being unreasonable. I understand that if I do this, that means I just lost an hour of sleep or an hour of, you know, what's the new thing on Netflix? Squid whatever.
Squid Game. We'll dive into that.
Yeah, like I don't get that every day, or I get it, you know, when I get it. And it's just like that's
Yeah,
it.
but that shit's not going away.
Oh no, it's not. And again, like I keep getting jacked up and I'm like, all right, this is the way, right? And so I don't mind it at all, because where I'm at right now, I think we're close. We're definitely not there, which is cool. I just saw Rob talking about like when he transitioned away from his first job, and he said I think it was like $6 or $7 grand. And so I was like, all right, we're close. We're not there, but we're close. But I think a lot of that too is, again, like I think we have a solid product. I think we have some great ideas, and the feedback is coming back that we do. So it's more like now finding the customer base that is loyal.
It's that and pace.
Yeah.
You know, figure out how often you need to make new things.
Yeah. So we slowed down last year just because I was trying to figure out like how to be a little bit more professional with it. Because what was happening, I was downrange. I'd get a design, do a design, print a design, and then trying to shoot it at the same time.
Yeah. Well, I'm familiar.
Yeah. And it's like, but I'm overseas though.
Yeah. No, right. I can't even fucking imagine.
And so I'm like calling guys and I'm like, well, you know, and you want to make sure that people match what you got. And it's like, well, I need you. And, you know, a lot of my friends are doing the same thing I'm doing. They're out of the country or whatever. And so now trying to slow it down and go, okay, we'll do this. We'll push it for this date. I have 2-week lead time. And that's where I'm, you know, moving towards. And then we can get back on a solid pace. So
it's we've experimented a lot with pace of stuff. I mean, I know how it was, you know, prior to me getting Brant on board, and then how that's changed when the two of us got to working together. And then once we fleshed out the team some more, like we figured out what's the most we can do. Yeah. And so that's not sustainable. So we've backed away from running at that pace. Yeah. And trying to do things a little bit more thought out and have a little bit more plan to it, instead of like, can I produce new shit every week? Yeah. And I figured out I can, but there's a cost. And there's a point that it will exhaust my clientele.
Just become diminishing returns.
Yeah. Yeah. Just making, it doesn't make it important, even though that we're still not restocking, right? Yeah. There is another drop next week.
Yeah, I get that. But I mean, that whole piece though, like even not restocking, man, like I think about that now. Like those are all like questions and ideas and things that I have now when I start dealing with companies, and the way I look at even myself. I'm like, all right, well, are we going to bring this one back, or is this one going to be, you know, like we have the team shirt. I'm going to keep it. I want to keep it forever. Yeah. But everything else, unless there's like a huge demand then
well, it's also fun that if you in 2 years want to bring something back, you can. Yeah. I love the challenge of thinking of a new concept. Yeah. Like I really love that side of the job.
Well, that's funny, man. I like that, and I like the fact, so I'm a horrible artist, but I'm trying to teach myself. So it's like I've bothered Drew, I've bothered so many of those guys, like, hey man, like how do I do this? You know, like I just recently discovered the challenge of trying to draw an S a million different ways, and I'm like, I'm terrible. But anyways, I love that, but for me, you know, random thought, but it strikes me at the oddest times. And that's why I'm just carrying around this book now and just trying to sketch things out. Because I mean, I'll be walking, running, in the gym, whatever, and it hits, and I'm just like, oh, okay, let's write this down. Because I've let too many things fly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, too many things fly, and I'm just like, where?
And that to me, like what you're talking about, right? Like I always think about that concept, because I'm not a great graphic designer by any fucking stretch. I'm not a graphic designer, I think is how that sentence should go. Same. I can speak the language well enough to communicate to my good graphic designer what I want. Yeah. And he does a really good job of hitting that target based on the information I can give him. So the better that I can speak the language to translate my thoughts, the better we hit the target. So that's my job.
Yeah, I've done it. I've done everything from like copy and paste, clip art, like arranging things to like little 3x5 sketches.
Yeah, more info, the better.
That's perfect because I mean that's the whole like you making mood boards or just concept boards and stuff like that because that's what you're doing when you're doing that and like that gives a vibe and that helps a lot. That helps way more than you would ever think.
And also, like after tattooing for a bit and doing other creative work, there's nothing worse than someone just saying, "We'll do something cool." Like, fuck, man, I need more. That's no direction.
Yeah, I get that.
And so, like, the more direction you can give your graphic artist, the more freedom you give them.
Yeah,
yeah.
That's all I want, man. It's just again like freedom and just trying to be creative. The creative piece, man, is something I'm really having fun with right now because it's something that where I'm starting to see it everywhere. Whereas before, like a year ago, I wouldn't say a year ago, probably a little bit longer, you know, it was only when I was designing. Whereas like now, you know, I walk into a store, I see a hat, I mean, even like labels on food, and I'm like,
Everything's a choice.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It goes back to the whole universe creation. Like not only if I'm creating my own universe, somebody's out there doing it too. Or even if they're just putting a little piece of themselves in the universe, I can take it and be like, okay, I like that, you know.
Right.
You know, and it actually started even prior to that when I was on your website and you were like brew label. And I was like, what do you mean like a beer? And so then I started going and looking at old beer cans and shit. And I was like, oh, it's really dope.
Yeah, there's tons of great inspiration in art. Like, I'm really lucky that at least one of the weirdo ways my brain works is it collects references and ideas.
Same.
Whoa. Yeah. It's a disaster of an organization system in there, but there's a lot of it.
It's also really bad when you meet people who don't know it, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm referencing things and people are like, I have no idea what you're doing.
Right. Well, they're doing this because it's a reference to all these other bits and pieces and connecting the dots. And I love all that. And like we work it into pieces and I'm aware there's some stuff I just miss the base on. Like people, it's too deep.
Yeah, they don't know. I get it.
Yeah.
I mean,
we did an Army of Darkness style shirt. Like that's not a popular film.
I mean, Evil
Brand,
Dead.
ever seen Army of Darkness? All right.
Man.
He's about as target demographic as it could be, as someone who loves the brand and works here.
I sat next to a dude when I was deployed last. He's like 22, 23. And one of the things that I kind of found odd, or I guess it's not odd, it's like a lot of guys, I guess, from that generation just in movies. Like even my son, man, like, are just, even a lot of my buddies that are younger, they're just not sitting down watching movies. It's got to be like something big, you know. And,
I still, that's probably the most, like my favorite way to consume media.
Oh, for sure.
Just fuck reading a book.
I'm not
into it.
I do a lot of audiobooks. Reading a book, I do the 10-page a day thing. That's the only way it'll happen.
I can't even focus for that long. Like, it's not that I can't focus. Like, I'm kind of slowly realizing, like, I really read poorly, like in the methodology in which I read.
That makes sense, though. I mean,
I've never thought of it as dyslexia. I've never thought of it at all growing up because I can do the work.
Yeah.
And it's good enough, but it's such an inefficient way.
I get it. I mean, the more and more now, it's just becoming audiobooks and podcasts.
Yes. I'm way better. For me to consume information, like the actual verb of reading, I'm not into.
Yeah.
The sitting in a chair with a book thing, like, or on the beach, like, I'm fucking not into it.
I think for me, though, it's like we were talking about earlier, like I want, anytime I can kind of get my brain to just like, look at this, do this thing, one
focus.
thing, right? Then I'm down, and it's a challenge. And most of the time, my brain, again, I sit down. Like one of the things I had to do, first I had like the Kindle app, and then the whatever Apple's app is for like digital books, and I was trying to use it. But then it's your cell phone, right? So
Still your phone.
Ding. I'm on to the next.
Which is why I switched to audio, and I'll turn off notifications, and I don't get, my do not disturb is on, so that for me to really focus, like I found out that I need the machine to be busy. So that's why like steady state cardio, any of that, like I can get into a pretty solid flow state easily.
Yeah.
Going for a long bike ride and listening to an audiobook.
See, what I found, it was the opposite for me. I mean, it is during those things as well, but the way it works best for me is I do something like that, and then like that 5, 10, 15 minutes afterwards, if I can just sit still, I can listen. Right. But if it's because like what I was doing, I was trying to do this, like just meditate. Right. Cool. I was waking up in the morning going first into that. My brain wasn't having any parts of it. I'm everywhere, man. I'm like, what are I going to do today? I wonder what this, and so I wasn't having it. Tried it a couple other ways. Then started going on walks, long walks. Come back, that first 5-10 minutes, I would sit down and put a meditation on or something like that. And I was like, now I got it.
Interesting doing it post-training.
Yeah. And so I started doing it like that. And I noticed a big difference. And then there was the Brian McKenzie's app that he was using for a while. I don't think he's working with him anymore, State. Okay. And so I was doing those two together. And it was paid big dividends, man. But before that, like same thing like you said, like I'm not paying attention. I'm not listening. I'm not getting ready to quiet my mind or nothing. Like nothing is happening other than whatever, fucking rave is happening in my head at the time.
Dude. Yeah. My best is like my probably ultimate way to be flow state and uptake information would be a little stoned and my heart rate should be probably about 140 and everything's busy and it needs to be a mindless thing that I'm doing, like pedaling a bike in a straight line.
Man, like
or on the trainer, like I can just, I'm completely go in.
That's what I'm trying to find now. Somebody has an app that'd be even better. But what I did instead is I bought one of the digital recorders because when I'm walking and doing all that stuff, I'm not going to write. I'm just not that guy who's going to write and do that at the same time. But the book, whether it's a blog or an actual post or whatever, that's when it's all hitting and flowing the best. So I take the digital recorder and just started using it like that instead because there's no app on your phone where you can listen to music or whatever I have going and
still be able to. Yeah.
And so I started doing that and that's paid big time, man, because I was like, oh, now I have so I finished the first draft for the book and scrap probably half of it.
Yep, that's how it goes.
Scrap probably half of it, but a lot of concepts stayed. And so now going back with those concepts and then kind of doing this, it seems to be working a bit better.
It's kind of polishing.
Yeah, it's definitely polishing. Because one of the things too, man, is like there's a really good article called Subtract by this guy named Dennis Seaver or Derek Seaver.
Okay.
And he was like, one of the best things in life can be found through subtraction. He was like, the whole world's going to ask you to add this, add that, add this, add that. And he's like, but subtraction's where it's at. So I started thinking about it, and I started thinking about it in reference to writing. Right. So whenever I'll write, I'm pretty verbose, man. So I'll write a bunch of crap and I'm like, it's too much.
We can cut half of that out.
And then once I started doing it, I was like, oh, this is so much better. So much better. And so same thing here. It's like, I've cut this all out. Now we'll go back and we'll hit it and try to actually hit the points and make sure that the points and the stories that go along with the points matter more. Because at first it was just kind of, I think just telling stories for the sake of telling stories.
Dude, it's taken me a long time to figure out what's the best way for me to do it because I feel like there's information I want to share.
Yeah.
And trying to figure out how to get it out is tricky, especially in a consumable way. And so the current book that I've been working on now for the last couple of years with, from journaling, going through knee surgeries to where we are now, I finally have like a ghostwriter. And so like I meet with him usually weekly, and he'll basically just interview me and I record it and then he takes off from that and writes.
So I was in the process of hiring a writing coach. I paused it, but I think that might be the move for me. It's kind of the same thing, kind of the same concept is like, I know what I'm doing and where I want to go, but I also want to make sure that for the external person who's not tied to this, they're hearing what I'm saying.
Sure.
Because especially when you start mixing stuff like with the military and everything else, we can get lost in that. And that's not really the point here. The point for me is to try and be like, hey man, like if you're feeling X in this situation, I need you to get here. And I want you to hear that. I don't want you to get lost in the fact that we're talking about Iraq or Afghanistan or whatever. Like that's just a byproduct of the story.
Of where we're there.
Yeah. What the real thing is like, hey, I was fucked up. Now I'm here.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of really key for me. But it's been tricky. Like I said, I just I went off on some tangents. But then I think one of the most helpful things I heard was just write a shitty first draft.
Well, so it's the same rules for everything. And like once I figured out the rules of things, like everything now makes sense to me. And it's no different than lifting. Like, just start doing it and pay attention and get better at it, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, if you want to write a book, fucking start writing. Write anything.
I think the issue with me wasn't that. I definitely started writing.
Yeah, but you need reps.
But I started writing and editing and reading all at the same time.
No, just dump info.
Yeah, and that's when I heard the guy was like, and it was actually, I think it was Jordan Peterson, but it came from a buddy of mine who sent it to me. It was like, hey, he said, you're struggling with this. Well, here's the deal. Just write a shitty first draft, man.
Yeah.
And it clicked for me. I was like, I'm just getting it all out, whatever it is. Because before what would happen is I'll write like 3 paragraphs.
Like, well, that doesn't, no.
Yeah, and then I'd be like, and
let someone else do that part.
Yeah. And then not only that, then of course with the way my brain works, like now I'm on this line and it says this thing and I'm down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And I got to
But that's what people want from you. That's why your audience is interested in you, right? So remember that you're writing for a person.
Oh, for sure.
Right? That always helps. And it always helps to remind me, because I'll get caught in thinking about how this would impact my friends or peers. And the reality of it is my friends and peers are busy.
Yeah.
And I don't know that they'll read my book. And I don't take that in any weird way.
No, I get it. I 100% understand.
They're not my audience.
I mean, that's what I was going to say.
They know me personally. They don't need to read the fucking book.
There's a handful of guys that I know that they probably could have wrote a chapter or 2 in this book. So it's not for them.
Right.
Right. It's for the guys who are actually going through the thing, so that makes complete sense to me. And then not only that, like you said, like your friends are busy. So if you're really writing for a person, they're trying to consume this. It's like, I think you talked about it before, like when your content is one way and then it changes, it's like, I'm not for you anymore. And that's cool. Fine. And I think, but also with life, that's been a big change for me. It's like just letting people go. Yeah.
That's one of them, isn't it? What triggered that feeling that?
I mean, I think you start having conversations or being around or being in situations, and you start, kind of observe the situation rather than be in it. And you're like, I'm not supposed to be here, or I'm not really here.
You're not really there.
Yeah. And that's one of the bigger ones, is like, with time meaning what it means to me, if I don't want to be here, dude, I don't want to be here. And it's just a hassle. And I'm not going to be a benefit to you. I'm a space cadet, man. I will be in the corner of that room and somewhere else.
Happily somewhere else.
And that's not what you want from me. I know that. They know that.
No, and I, because I'm very, very similar, I don't want to be that guy.
Exactly.
And so the solution is me just not come.
Mm-hmm. We'll do the thing that we're both engaged.
Yeah.
I'd rather do that 100 times than me pretend to be here. Because
I'm done. I'm done with that part, dude. I took a lot of dudes to lunch for a long time and had to pretend to be engaged. I'm done.
And I never had that experience. I just know that I spent so much time doing other things, and now I'm like, hey, and it's like, the story I told you, man, like you spend 20 years doing something or 15 years, it doesn't even matter. And you keep putting things off. Like, I'm going to put this off till tomorrow. And next thing you know, you're gone, or your buddy's gone. And it's like, I could have been doing this instead of pretending to like this dinner party we're at, or whatever it is. We could have sat around on beanbags and just gotten
it's a
obliterated.
Choice.
And I'd rather do that than, pretend like I want to be here.
No, man. And there's something to the formality of stuff that I guess people are really attracted to, right? And I think like the formal standard things of doing birthday parties and doing these gatherings that are Hallmark, have a cart built for them.
Yeah.
And people fall in line with that this is what you're doing and these are the moments you celebrate. And so, you do the holidays and you work, and then you have this separation to everything else. And it just, once you're outside of the standard path, it's really tough.
It's a terrible aversion to going back to that, right? Like, I've had these experiences now.
All right, you've had the red pill.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, you want me to do what?
Yeah, why?
Why?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, like the thing that we're looking at right now is like, how can I have more freedom, more experiences, bring my buddies along, and also create some stuff that's pretty cool. You know, like right now, I think like I've been focused on focus, momentum. Like those are the two big words I think keep hopping around in my mind a lot. It's just like, how can I keep building momentum, and how can I keep building my ability to focus on something? You know, because as a guy who doesn't focus well, whenever I find it, I'm just like, oh, this is a gold mine. And so,
what tricks are you using to lock in on a thing?
Well, so I think the biggest thing, honestly, is like I started, and it sounds stupid, but it's true. Like I started dieting in January, like legitimately dieting.
Like, so you're tracking everything?
Yeah, tracking. My coach is providing me with a diet. I'm following it to a T. And it was a big way to kind of call me on my bullshit, right? Because you can provide 1,000 excuses of why you don't want to diet, right? Like food is.
You can also pretend and tell yourself you eat really clean.
Oh, well, I mean, that's another one.
I'm already eating what I'm supposed to. It's not the diet's not the issue.
I look okay. It's fine. You know what I mean? Or,
yeah, man.
or whatever. And so finally actually buckling down, I was like, hey, I turned 40 in February. I want to show up to 40 looking as best as possible.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, you know, right?
I feel that way about every day.
And so I was like, all right, well, let's start this. And so I start trying to diet, and I'm like, oh shit, I've been lying to myself. Like, I have a considerable amount of willpower. I know this. But apparently, when it comes to Thursday nights, I got shit.
Dude, oh man, that hits so close to home. Like, because, so when we travel, I'll lose weight consistently. Because, like, when we're in Dubai or anywhere else, like, I don't have access to snacks.
Yeah.
100% of whether I am getting leaner or not is depending on how much bullshit I want to eat once I'm super stoned at the end of the night.
Oh, man.
It's 100%. Because I was in Dubai in Africa for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Without anything to smoke. Lost.
Yeah, I bet.
Lost a great amount. Like, everything looked great.
Access is an amazing thing, man. Like, I was in Virginia Beach, and they had one of those midnight cookie places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man. There's two here. There's Insomnia and Hotbox.
Yeah, Insomnia
What
is
you want me to do?
Oh, there's a new one?
What you want me to do with this? Hotbox? They know who the crowd is.
Oh, no.
Man, I'm up at like, I'm watching movies, and I'm like, guys, like, I start ordering.
We live in the most amazing time in history.
And it's, I'm on quarantine. Like, I can't leave this hotel room. The guy's like, so he's like, hey, this is the deal. You can't leave the hotel room, but you guys can have food delivered. So I'm in a hotel room for 14 days.
Oh, no. I'd have been in so much trouble.
Oh, my. It was terrible. It was so bad. But no, so I started dieting, man. And then, like, being able to kind of see those little, like, bullshit lies, right? And then you start calling yourself on it, and you're like, well. And I think
do you want it or not?
Yeah. And well, that's always.
Admit it to yourself, and then we'll just move on.
I think that's always the big one, right? Like, people will be like, I want to do this. And then you're like, hey, well, this is what this costs.
Right.
This costs this right here, right? There's a goal system called Whoopee, right? It's different. Like, everybody uses SMART system or whatever. And one of the things I like about this Whoopee deal is basically after you fill it out and you do it, it basically asks you, like, this is what it costs. Do you want to pay that?
Right.
All right. You don't want to run a 3-hour marathon. Do you want to run a 5? Because this is what a 5 costs.
Yeah.
And that's how it kind of works out. And so, you know, it's the same thing. But I started doing that. And then everything else is just, I think, again, just going back to like subtraction. There's things I don't want in my life. There's people types of people I don't want in my life. You know, I have a saying, man, in pursuit of a thing, very little matters. And the more I kind of key in and lock in on that thing, right? Whatever your thing is, building hate, you're chasing the marathon time or whatever it is, the more this other stuff just tends to fall away.
100%. 100% I agree with that. I'm aware that I'm someone who needs a carrot to chase.
Yeah.
The cool part about hate being that carrot is there's so much to figure out.
Yeah.
Like, it's just this big puzzle, and then as soon as you scale to the next level, everything's new again. And so it's never comfortable.
And I think that's why this is so attractive to me. All of it, right? Like just trying to branch out and go into business on your own or pick up these new adventures. You know, It's just like, oh, this is a new thing to figure out. And again, like you get that carrot, you can find some focus, some flow state. And then you're like, oh, because I'm just the interest in me going back to anything that's that structured.
Nah, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, it's already dwindling.
Right. And so like,
by the second.
And attack the new thing.
Yeah.
With knowing how little you want to go back.
Oh, that's it. That's constantly on my mind.
Right. So like, it's a great motivator.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, having that thing to focus on, right? And like how that changes stuff. And what you end up being able to do is like, you have that carrot to chase as far as work, right? Like how to fill that bucket in your life of we're building a thing, we're doing a thing, like that pursuit. And then you can have the exact same full chase feeling of a carrot with your diet.
Yeah.
That's a separate, but both of them get full attention that you feel locked in on. And I know I need that in almost every realm. Like I need the carrot that is this investment thing that Bonnie and I are doing with now picking up some properties and investing in a couple companies and doing that. Like I have that one that I'm very fucking interested in and trying to learn as much as I can about.
Yeah.
And then training is I'm still trying to do what I can to make my body feel the best I can. And nutrition, I'm always trying to get better at it.
Yeah.
And so every aspect of my life is a thing that I'm chasing a carrot.
That's funny. Like, I know Tate talked about it when he was writing his book, and I actually asked him about it a while ago. But he was saying like you kind of split life into like 4 different pieces, like spiritual, intellectual, physical, whatever. And it's the same thing. I think you're just always trying to find that carrot, chase it, and then, you know, how can you kind of, I guess, make it a bit better as you're doing it, you know, because it's not always. I think you want a destination. It's not just chasing a carrot just to chase it. Bah.
No. Doing work for the sake of just doing it, I'm not into.
Yeah.
I need why.
Yeah. But I mean, I think sometimes we get caught in that too. I know I have, at least. I've got caught in it, and then I catch myself and like, okay, there's actually a purpose to this.
Yeah. Like I need a reason why I'm
doing it.
Otherwise I just won't give a shit.
It's I mean, there's enough shit to get, there's enough things to not give a shit about, you know.
I would prefer to not be caught up in any of them, or I call it, I'm not interested in having any drag on my system. Like I want to be able to operate and think and create and move without any of this emotional baggage or an anxiety toward a thing that's like I'm trying to drag something forward with me.
Yeah.
Instead of like fucking cut it loose. Whether that's people or a business line or something that's not working.
What's the thing for you right now that you either need to or are looking to cut loose?
I still have discipline issues. I have discipline issues that need to be sorted out. And so like I need to cut loose whatever bullshit I'm holding on to those. Recently there was an employee that I needed to let go, and it was just, it sucks, right? Because there's nothing wrong they're doing. Mm-hmm. They're good at their job. They're timely about it, but it's like, you can just sense it's not a fit, and it feels more like a weird breakup.
Yeah.
Than not.
Well, I mean, I think when you're doing something like this, man, like everybody rows or you get off the boat, right? It's just hard. And when somebody
and this person's willing to row, but they need to be told to row. Exactly.
But that's what I mean. Like, so there becomes a point in time, like where when you assimilate into a culture, right?
Yep.
You just kind of do. And when you don't, that's when somebody else like,
right.
What's the problem?
And the realization I have from that just means that this thing isn't the fit for that person that they want to row. Right. And if we can build a culture that has that desire, that everyone on board is obsessed.
Yeah, they're showing up stoked to row.
Right.
That's what you want.
Right. That everyone is loving it.
Yeah.
And if we can build that, let's try.
I mean, what? I think the question would be like, why wouldn't you?
Look, maybe at some point when I have to have like accountants I don't know that they're stoked to show up and row every day. Like they're still doing accounting work, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I don't think I know any accountants, but that's the question to ask, right?
I don't know.
Like, I don't see how you would get jazzed for that, but I'm sure there's somebody out there who's like numbers.
Yeah. Or maybe not numbers, but you think about it as a service. Like, you're able to really empower a lot of dummies like me from doing illegal shit. Because I'd fuck this whole tax thing up completely.
Like when you say it like that, when we put it like that, I know a guy, he's a great tax guy.
Which is, like, you have a skill to focus on this type of stuff and read it differently that I can't.
I think that's what it is. I think now thinking about it, I think that's what he kind of gets off on the fact that it's just he's like
working the system.
Yeah, he's the guy that gets to show you across, right?
Oh,
here's the bridge. Here's the bridge, man. You want to make more money? You want to pay less taxes? I got you. We're gonna do it legally. But I think that's so saying it makes more sense if you kind of break it down like that. Because for a guy like me, I'm just like, why would I ever?
Same boat, dude.
Well, we had talked about it before because we were watching some like weird race thing, and it was talking about this mining town, and like this dude just into mining, like that's his thing.
Yeah, that's his identity.
Like his whole thing is mining.
Yeah, we've talked about identity a lot.
Yeah,
and like mine was always as an athlete.
Yeah.
And I didn't I knew it wasn't Highland Games. I knew it wasn't a power lifter. I knew it wasn't that. But athlete, when that one got taken, I got fucking really weird.
Yeah.
And so it was the same thing of watching this thing. And like, it's easy for me to be like, oh, fuck, you work in a coal mine. Like, or not a coal mine or a gold mine or whatever they're doing. Yeah. Right. He's a fucking miner.
Yeah. Anytime this conversation comes up, I always immediately remember that.
That dude loves being a miner. Loves being a tough fuck. Loves that he's going in the ground and doing this job, and like it's hard work.
Yeah, I think there's something to that though. Another thing that people don't really talk about when it comes to that kind of stuff. Like you find people that kind of fall in love with the thing, whatever their thing is. We all tend to kind of romanticize it just a bit, right? Yeah. And so like you find things like, oh, the reason why I like this is because I'm a tough fuck, right? When everybody else is like, why are you doing that? just go home.
And like I think people love. Whatever it is, it could be the fact that he likes being alone.
Yeah. I think, those are cool. That's the stuff that, even if it's mining, I don't know shit about mining, but I'm jacked up to talk to you because I'm like, dude, like, how are you this stoked on this thing? Because, I meet too many people who's the opposit.
Dude, lukewarm people?
Well, just like,
not stoked.
Fucking get out of here.
You're just here, and it took me a long time to realize that those people really existed as like, I'm okay with this situation as it is, whatever that might be. Like, and I'm just like,
well, you could change it. What do you mean?
Yeah, you can customize this. You can add black if you want to. You could put little lights on, like, and they're just, no, I'm cool. And that just, and at first it bothered me.
Well, it's compromise, man. It's compromise on your dreams, and the more that you're willing to step that line and compromise, the easier it is to give the next one. And I hate that because of how that translates to a lot of political bullshit in our country right now that people aren't willing to hold conversations because if it's a compromise at all, we have given in. And this is, again, I believe this is what works best for controlling a populace is if they're willing to fight each other, they're not mad at us.
Oh, of course. Like and not only that, I can get you to spend all your time over here. We don't ever have to talk about anything important. We don't ever have to deal with anything important, whether that's your own personal life or politically or anything else. One of the big deals I've been thinking about a lot lately is like your judgments say more about you than they do about me. Right? And so I think about it every time somebody's like lashing out or whatever, and I'm just like, oh, this is a you problem.
It's crazy once you start recognizing that. I know for me, the more that I was able to kind of get more aware of my own shit and realize like, oh, why did I fucking say that? Like, that isn't about them. And like, I could catch myself doing it.
Yeah.
And as soon as I got that, it was really easy to read it.
Yeah.
And so it allows me to not take anything personally.
Yeah, I'm still trying to work on the not taking things personally because I think
it's a goal. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, but for me, it's more about like, especially in like very close personal relationships. For me, it's more about like there's a level of care, and you shouldn't expect, but you do, and that's where it gets me because I'm like, well, especially as a guy who formerly Mr. Not Thoughtful at all.
Mr.
Right?
Not Thoughtful.
Yeah, like now that I can kind of think through things, I go, really?
Oh yeah. Once you're self-aware and you see it play out the other way too, and so you're reading the room now of how the other person read you not doing shit.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then you bring it up, or so that I see it. I do a pretty good job of it, man. But damn, sometimes it's just.
Have you ever? There's a line. It's from a movie. It's from Bronx Tale.
Okay.
Guys explaining this idea of going on a date and selfishness of a girl.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
The line from it is, it basically says, when you pick her up, you have both doors, you lock both doors of the car. You walk her to the car, you unlock her door, open the door, put her in, shut the door. And as you walk around the back of the car, look through the glass, and if she leans over to flip that button for you to get in, she's a keeper.
Yeah. That's a perfect line.
Right.
Man.
And then he says, and if she doesn't, you dump her and dump her fast. And he says, because what you've seen is the tip of the iceberg.
Man.
And there's an awareness to that, right? Like that. I mean, look, we live in a time now that you don't have to flip the button, but there's some truth to that, like awareness of the situation, awareness of making one cup of coffee in the morning if you know other people in the house drink coffee.
Hey, man, like I told you, I was the guy. I'd get up, go to the store, go bring some stuff, get everything for myself, and then I'd show back up and be like, oh, you want something?
Dude, so where I've had to land on this to coach myself out of it, and it's mostly with chores around the house. Because I'm aware I don't see them.
Oh, man.
Right. So I'm not purposely avoiding them. I don't see them.
Same.
So the rule I have now is if I do see it,
do it then.
Well, it's something like, say the sink has dishes in it. Mm-hmm. Someone has to do that. And so me not doing it means she'll do it.
Yeah.
That makes me a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And so don't be a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Anytime it fires up that it's the dishwasher needs unloading, someone has to unload it. Not unloading it is a shitty thing because I go, she'll do it.
That's a good way to look at it.
That's a fucking scumbag move. Fucking unload the dishwasher, asshole.
See, for me, it's more like I talked to Ross, and I did a little class about habits for him, right? And I was telling him, I was like, with habit people, you have kind of two people. You have people who need an impediment in their way, and that's me. If something's not stopping me to look at you will do the dishes now. I'm 100 miles an hour and I'm moving past it, and it's not. So I have to put something in my way to go, okay, slow down.
Yeah.
Because if not, that thought, even though I like that thought, won't even cross my head at all. Because I'll just be like, all right, the next thing is this squirrel, and then
shit, dude. It's so funny because and it's along the same lines, but I've started recently thinking about it. And I don't know if I'm too fucking high or whatever it is, but typically what I've started thinking about now is little moments of mindfulness that I can generate full focus. And the better that I can develop that ability to turn it on and turn it off, that would be really beneficial. Instead of there needing to be some magic to me getting to flow state.
Yeah.
And so one of those ways I've done it is when I'm making coffee in the morning, I want all of the steps perfect. I'll never get it, but that doesn't mean I shouldn't try. And so all the steps perfect for me it is the order at which I grab the pot from the old machine, dump and rinse it, throw the old grinds down while, rinse out the grind holder. And then while my pot is filling with water, that gives me time to put that back into the thing and put grinds in it. And then grab the pot, put it up, hit brew.
I like
that. Perfect version of this is when I'm loading grinds, I don't spill any. And so I have to focus. Because if I'm careless with it, I'll spill grinds. I'll do it. And it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But still.
But I understand, once you have those little steps.
It even gets, then the better you get at it. I'm not timing it.
Yeah.
But there should be a smoothness to that routine. And the better I want it, I can't just autopilot it. I have to try to care. And it's 2 minutes, man. It's fucking 2 minutes that you can invest. I can do it.
So it's funny. I just started playing with coffee because 20 years in the military, I barely drank coffee.
How?
Yeah.
I would have drank so much coffee and smoked all the cigarettes.
A lot of cigarettes for 12 years. A lot of cigarettes for 12 years.
Need shit to do.
And then lots of energy drinks. But it's funny. I actually thought about it the other day. I went probably almost 8-9 years without energy drinks.
Whoa.
And then I discovered Red Bull. But so here's how it's actually funnier. I discovered Red Bull because I was just drunk.
Discovered, you say?
Yeah, exactly.
Like Indiana Jones.
Man on the moon. Man on the moon. Somehow I got there. But so for me, it was at a bar. I didn't know you could just go to a gas station and buy Red Bull because it wasn't on my radar.
Oh, right.
Like when I go to the gas station, it was like, I'm going to go get a Sprite and a Gatorade, like, or whatever, you know? And then I remember drinking enough Red Bull and vodkas where one day later on, I was like, that Red Bull tastes kind of good.
Yep.
So that's how I started drinking them. It
That's
had
how it gets
nothing, and nothing to do with caffeine, nothing to do with, I needed a little bit more.
I really didn't like to take a taste of whiskey. I started drinking whiskey because I didn't like how it tastes, and I would drink less of it. Like I would nurse a drink all night.
Okay, yeah.
So I was like, fuck yeah, this is a great way to put a speed limit.
Yeah.
I just order a thing I don't like. And I still get the social aspect of having a drink and doing all this. And then I got to liking it. Shit. This is now backfired.
Yeah, I had a dude invite me over to try and teach me all about, he was talking to me about whiskey, and I was like, oh, I don't care. And so I come over, and he's got all these whiskeys from everywhere, old, new, foreign, whatever. And then he's got the whole setup, like, you know, meat, cheese, just everything. And I'm like, oh, I guess I kind of like whiskey now.
Yeah.
I was like, I could do this more.
Dude, and then the good stuff's really good. And like I wish it wasn't. But like when I was doing the outside sales thing, like I got to dabble in a bunch of expensive shit, you know, entertaining customers and stuff like that. And one of those for me, I hated having to take a customer on a hunt.
Oh,
I'm just not into it.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
And like it's a fucking stretch from hunting.
Yeah.
It is. You've picked a deer out of a magazine that we have. You've told us how much it is, and then we're going to go have you shoot at that deer.
Oh, wow.
It's very strange. Whatever. But I would rather get you like a nice bottle of bourbon and some Cuban cigars. And so I started giving customers that because it was different and they last longer. It's not just a fucking day that they're supposed to remember you.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
Every time I go to this thing, I should probably have some connection there.
Yeah. And so like nice bottles of bourbon I would pick up would be like the 23-year-old Pappy Van Winkle, which, I mean, those bottles are $3 or $4 grand a bottle.
Holy smokes. I had no clue.
Yeah, crazy shit.
Yeah.
So that type of stuff. I had a friend who worked at Whole Foods and they would get so many bottles a year.
Yeah.
And so I would just go buy all of them when they came in. And I would keep one or two.
Yeah.
For myself.
Of course, yeah.
But
yeah, looking like $5 grand.
yeah. And so like I wouldn't, it was one of those rules I had with it because I remember having those bottles and at some point like I had 3 or 4.
Yeah.
I knew that I wasn't ever going to sell them. That was never a thing I gave a shit about was this resale. I also paid like $80 for it because Whole Foods can't charge me $5 grand.
Oh, wow. Okay.
They're worth it on the resale market.
Yeah.
So then we just started drinking it casually because like, fuck it. It doesn't hold any value that I don't place on it. And what was the purpose of this wonderful craftsmanship of a thing that people value
If I don't use
if
it.
it just sits in this fucking bottle?
Yeah. That's something I always kind of like am weirded out by. You know, you have these awesome pieces of machinery people don't use or whatever just because they're worried about it. And I mean, I get it. Like, you know, if you have this super expensive watch or a car, like
Should be driven.
That's what I think too. But then I stop myself sometimes, right? So like the thing I want most right now for a vehicle that I probably won't buy is I want that Raptor, I want F-150 Raptor. Right?
Okay.
I've wanted it for years. But then I think about it. I'm like, I drive off-road. I'm in the woods. And
That's a useful truck.
Yeah, I think it's a useful truck until I think about a fucking branch sliding down the side of that thing. And I go...
Get it wrapped.
And I go...
Dude, the side of my shit's beat the trash.
Yeah, I mean, my last truck was like that.
Yeah,
but
I treat the Tundra like it's a fucking hammer.
Yeah, I didn't mind it with my last truck, but it was like... I don't know, for some reason I hold that in a different...
Oh, it's a weird thing to get a thing and baby it.
Yeah.
Dude, same thing with people that like sneakerheads. That's the same for me. That's a big one. It pisses me off. I'm like, dude, wear your shoes.
Exactly. I agree. So it's funny I'm saying that now because you put it like that, and I'm like, why are you wearing them? Don't just wear them. Please.
Wear them. Yeah, as someone who's never been into sneaker culture, like but I get obsession, and I get obsession as well. I get having things that like, man, I really work hard to not hold those things in some weird high regard because then they own me. And I don't like being owned by a thing.
I agree, man. I have thought about that that's one of the few ones where I just haven't been able to let go.
Now, I still get really excited and proud of myself for being able to make some of the purchases. The first nice watch I bought myself was that Panerai. And man, that's a watch I've wanted for 10 years.
Yeah.
And I still love it.
Yeah.
I got a second one when I finished Dope. Bonnie bought it for me. And that's the one I wear, is that one.
Yeah.
And so I had this other one sitting on my dresser. And one of my friends was in, and his watch was in the shop. And so I was like, oh, just take this. And like, I don't know if I'll ever get it back, and I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Like, I think he'd buy it from me if I wanted to sell it, but I don't want to sell it.
Yeah.
And so he's kind of laughed and talked about it now. He says, like, it's like a Horcrux. Like a piece of good vibes I get to travel with. And I'm like, fuck yeah, this is a great reason to have cool shit to give to your friends.
Yeah. That idea of having a thing that owns you, like,
oh man, then it gets a vote.
Yeah, I mean, for me, honestly, we talked about cigarettes briefly, but like when I was smoking, man, that's the reason why I stopped smoking, because I was like, I don't want to drive past this gas station and feel like I have to stop every fucking time, or every time I get in the car. It's not like, it almost felt like it wasn't a vote for me, right?
Yeah, see, I've never had any addiction to anything like that impedes my daily action.
It didn't impede my daily action as much as it just became so like I do everything overboard, right? Like it's not like I'm going to smoke like one cigarette.
You just got like 6 of them.
Oh yeah, like when I was smoking, I would go outside, right, and we're talking to my buddy or whatever, and I'm lighting them off the other ones.
Oh
yeah, I'm just like,
if we're smoking cigarettes, we're chain smoking cigarettes until we're done smoking cigarettes.
Exactly. So I'm like, this is horrible. And then it would get to the point where like there's certain patterns that were just locked in. If I'm at night and I'm driving, and I'm like, well, this is what we do. It's not about, I don't want this. This is just what we do. And so I just got to,
works.
Yeah. And so I just got to a point where I was like, I don't want to be a part of that anymore. Where, like you said, you're kind of just like a slave to it. You're just like, oh, and the same thing for like owning things. But for me, buying things has gotten less and less important. It's like we talked about experience.
And that's where it's landed for me.
Yeah.
It's not the thing anymore. It's, does it make the experience I want to have cooler?
Yeah.
And
or
if
more
it
convenient.
is that or more convenient, then I will spend on it. Like the reason the truck is built out, right, is because for the style of road trip and camping we like to do, I've really worked hard to optimize it to be perfect for that. And the problem with that is it's perfect one year, it's not the next. Like it's a moving target, which is fine by me.
Yeah.
I know there's no there.
Yeah.
And you know, having that truck, right, and it being a thing that I really love, and I really love that vehicle, or even the El Camino, it makes driving around town 10% more fun.
Yeah.
Which is a huge increase to my fucking life.
Yeah.
So then it was worth building this thing. But if it's something that just sits in this fucking trophy room that I have to walk by and show people, like, I don't get it.
Yeah, and you know, if you think about it even more, right, like how much time are you spending in your truck?
Yeah, a lot.
You know what I mean? So like,
so it may as well be time I like.
Exactly. I think that's just kind of the way to operate.
Yeah, that's that building the universe thing. That like, yo, make the things that you have shit you're into. I would rather have not a lot of things, but all stuff I like, than trying to fill a big space with stuff to pretend I have a lot of things.
Yeah. I mean, I think we get stuck on all that, man. You get stuck on whatever instead of the thing the actual feeling that you get from it, instead of like, you know, I like this. Like I'm going to continue to buy black and white Vans probably till the day I die, right? Yeah. Just because I like them.
Same.
You know, so I don't need a closet full of other stuff. Don't get me wrong. I see shoes and stuff, I'm like, oh, those are cool. I'm not a sneakerhead by any means, but it's just like.
Now, does the military background make things more minimal easy? Or does it, now that you can choose, you want more?
I think for me now, it's more about being minimal, but I think almost all of us shift the other way, right? Like I know most of my friends, when it comes to like, I always talk about like sheets, right? If you can buy sheets, you're going to buy the best sheets you can fucking buy. Like You've been sleeping on trash for a year.
Trash.
Yeah. Like I'm like that with mattresses. I'm completely unreasonable with mattresses.
I love
I will walk in and be like, this is a trash mattress.
Yeah. So what's the mattress you're running?
So right now it's not one because I've been gone.
Oh shit.
So everything for me is brand new right now.
Okay.
I am trying to, when we say create a universe.
So you're starting.
So 2018, I sold everything. Everything. I have a storage unit and a vehicle.
Okay.
That's it. So
this is you hitting the detonate button.
Yeah.
So what were things prior to that? What did we blow up?
A marriage.
Okay.
I left the military, marriage. I mean, just that entire life. It just all stopped then. Right. And so
full identity, every part of who you are.
Everything. And it was, I remember the therapist I was talking to, she was like, you just went through like multiple deaths. And she was like, and you need to recognize that now because it's hard. She was like, you're just thinking you're just out here cruising around. Everything's going to be fine. She's like, and then it slaps you every 3 days and you're like, what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, full reset. I had nothing. I have a storage unit with like a couch in it, I think, which I'm not even going to use probably, right? I sold most of my other things, knickknacks, whatever. And so now it's like looking for land, try and put a place on it, and then start building it out from ground up. So, yeah, when I say like I'm...
Step one, dude.
Step one. Right?
Yeah, but it's not step one.
But I mean, I love it, dude.
Sure.
I completely.
Step one is that you hit the detonate button.
Oh man, I was fortunate, right? So one of the things you talking about habits. One of the things here is like, what's the easiest way to change your habits? Change your environment. So I got to hit the detonate button, and probably saved my life because of it. Because had I continued on the route I was continuing on. It just wasn't good.
No.
And so I got to hit reset, take a bunch of pauses and rethink things and trying to rebuild some habits and rebuild who you are and even definitions of like what you are, who you think you are, all of it. But it's also led to me just being kind of completely stoked about everything, even when it sucks. Because I'm just like, oh, I've been worse.
Yeah. Yeah, you know? I've been worse, Pitt. And not only that, like the awareness too that comes with knowing that if you didn't make that move, you're dead.
Oh man.
and I mean it literally.
Yeah.
Because it's strange, right? Like I've talked about mental health. I talk about the ADHD and depression and everything that came from like injury and being down. Like I was never suicidal. I was never suicidal. But there's a difference in saying, I don't know where the gray area falls that like, I wasn't suicidal, but I knew I would not continue this way permanently.
I think it's a strong, I think it's good to be able to recognize it, right? Like it's one thing to be able to say like, I could do that.
Yeah.
And it's another to be like, I'm going to do that.
Right. Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that's the big separation.
Yeah. I think that's the big separation. Whereas like I modulated between the both, right? Until the point where it was just like, whew. And then when I finally hit detonate, it was more like I could. I'm not going to. I could. And I was more worried about like I always tell people like I'm a rolled ankle away from being a fat guy, right? Because my ability to eat it's pretty big, right?
I understand.
And it's like,
I understand.
So, but that's how I felt about my mental health at the time. I was like, I'm literally a rolled ankle away from just
too much
being back to ground zero. So. Hit reset, did all that. Now we're here and I'm pretty stoked about it, man. And I told you, like, out of all the things I think probably this year, like I said, like playing with like concepts and ideas and things that I hear. And I heard that idea from you about universe creation, but especially when you pair it with talking about movies. Like when you use, like, I think you're talking about Tarantino.
Yeah, universe creators.
Yeah, and when I heard that, man, I'm telling you, I thought about it for probably like 2 weeks straight. I was probably getting on people's nerves. Like, it was just like, just talking about it because it was like, this makes so much more sense to me than the idea of just, well, I'm going to, get in my house, design it, do the things and stuff like that. And I was starting, because I've, one of the other things I want to do is I want to make my own plates.
Okay.
Right? Like
ceramics.
Full bore. Like I was watching.
Like want to throw ceramics.
Yeah. So like,
right.
what's his name? The chef. His name's Masa.
All right.
He was on one of the episodes of Bourdain. It's actually my favorite episode of Bourdain. It's Japan with Masa, man. So I was watching it and they were making their own plates and he was talking about it and I was like, how dope would that be? Have my friends over, cook this giant meal, and then not only am I going to serve this meal, I'm going to serve it on my own plates.
Right. And then, so now when you open that rabbit hole of that, do you realize like how little you know about plates?
Oh, yeah.
That you can't even design your plate?
Yeah. So, and this is probably a problem. I actually just got called.
So strange enough, quick interruption is like I started thinking about that and I was like, yo, if someone right now was like, I would like you to design your ultimate sword. And I realized I don't fucking know enough about swords to design a cool sword.
A practical one, at least.
Or or a cool one. Like I don't know enough.
All I think about is like giant Final Fantasy
That's
swords,
exactly
and I'm like, I'm gonna make that one.
That's where I was going.
Right?
I was going the same place. I was
Weighs
like,
100 pounds, can't swing it
Like
at all.
I don't know what are good woods for swords. I don't know what's got a rad vibe or nod back to this or like any of these types. I don't know enough about swords to even design the coolest sword ever.
I think the same thing, but
Back to plates.
But I always go, I can figure it out.
Or
I'll just find someone, right? You'll find like, hey man, like this is the thing, and it's funny because there's so many people who limit themselves there and I don't. And it's just come up recently where people are like, you don't think that's a bit too much? Or they act like you're, I'll say cocky because you're just like, this is what we should do.
Well, you're not afraid of failure.
Oh no, I mean,
right. So like that gives a lot of confidence in decision making. It's not that you think it's right, but you know that we could try this.
Oh yeah.
And if it doesn't work, here's the steps 2, 3, and 4.
We dust ourselves off and do it again.
Yeah, try again.
I think like the rules I try to really live by is like fail fast, fail hard, man. Like and just do it again and hate where you failed. Because if you're okay with it, then it's like. Yeah, I was explaining to somebody recently, like trying to instill in my kids, like to just have a certain disdain for losing. Right? I don't want it to be unhealthy, but at the same time, I don't want them to be just okay with like, oh, I lost. It's okay. No big deal.
No fucking way, dude.
Right?
I'll never be complacent with that.
And it's the same thing here. It's like, I feel like it's the same thing. Like so many people are just okay with like, oh, I can't figure it out. And so it's no big deal. Whereas I'm like, oh, how do we do this?
Someone figured it out.
Yeah.
Which makes it now possible.
I don't know if you ever seen it, man. Tim Ferriss has a thing. It's called fear setting. You ever seen that?
No, I haven't.
Oh, dude. So he has a line in there where he's like, someone in the history of the world, I think he says either dumber or smarter has figured this out. So why can't you?
Right. I'm aware that there's a lot of concepts I think about and I share with other people who've thought of things.
Yeah.
Right. But I've never gotten them from a lot of those places. Like even the like Jocko's thing with good.
Yeah.
Like the first time I heard that, I'm like, yeah, this is how I felt about blah, blah, blah for a long time. I can't believe this person said it so eloquently.
Yeah. Yeah.
You bastard.
Like, you got me again.
You're good at saying, you're good at words.
That's, when you and Kelly were talking about, and we talked about this last time, I think, and I showed you the piece I wrote for it, the rings in the tree. Mm-hmm. That's how I felt when I heard you guys. So that's why I rewrote the thing.
Dude, that's one of my favorite things that Kelly's ever said.
When I heard that, I was like, man, if there's not a thing that describes exactly what I just went through, and at timely, speaking of, like, I don't know Kelly, I haven't met him, but I have to say this. I saw like interviews and stuff with him previously, and I was like, man, I don't know about this guy. And then continuously says things that I'm just like,
yeah, he's with it.
Whereas at first when I was like, I don't know if I'd ever want to, whatever. Pretty, something you shouldn't say anyways. You never even talk to somebody, but, that was my thought at the time.
Yeah, of course. Look, I think it's human nature to make a decision.
Oh, yeah, you make some snap judgments that are...
Just be willing to know you're wrong.
Yeah. Oh.
That part's really important.
Dude, and that's what it was. I remember he said some other things, I don't know, on interviews or whatever I saw, and I was just like, this guy is on it, man. Like
Kelly switched on, man, and Kelly's really smart, and Kelly has experienced a ton and has grown a business and he's done the reps.
started an industry essentially.
Yeah. He's done the reps, dude. Like,
Yeah.
he's done it from having a CrossFit gym out in the backyard, in the back of a building in a parking lot, to kayaking for world championships and like, having this other sporting background that pivoted into something totally else. Like, he's made the chapters.
Being able to sum things up like that, though. He had another one I talked about a lot. I talk about a lot, and that was the 3 truths of pain. I think he called it, or 3 lies of pain will tell you, something like that. He was like, it's never going to end. It's only going to get worse. I don't remember what the third one was. And I found that to be like one of the biggest things, even like when I'm coaching dudes and coaching myself, man, like through shitty situations. And it's true. Like, what does pain tell you? This is only going to get worse. You can't take it. And challenging those thoughts becomes like the biggest thing. And so when I heard him say that, I was like, man, I have never heard that put that way. And it's probably, I don't think it could be put any better.
No, he shared a lot of that. Again, just being fortunate enough that he's a real friend, and family. Like, man, I love Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
Kelly definitely moved into a role for me when I lost my dad.
Yeah.
Like, for sure, he's been close enough to fulfill some of that. And, weird that he's only 10 years older than me, but it is what it is, mentor, whatever it is. And him talking about that, like, whenever I was in a really bad spot with my knee, talked about it. He's like, look, it's going to get better. And that was a real struggle I had, because at that point I'm 8 surgeries into this. Like, I don't see light at the end of the tunnel. I don't see, this is it.
Yeah.
And I'm not okay. Like, I'm fucking treading water. And I know that I can't. I can't tread water like this forever.
That's a realization and a half.
Dude, I still can't get over how it hit me the first walk after surgery, after the total knee. Like, I'm in a gown walking in the hospital for my first walk, and the main, like, what I would say priority pain, I guess, the one that I always thought about, that was always the big issue, was fucking gone. It was the one that hadn't gone away for any moment of time.
Oh, wow.
For the last 3.5 years. Like it's there when I'm sitting. It's there when I'm laying down. It's never not there.
It's always tapping.
Yeah. And it was gone.
I can't imagine.
And like, I didn't trust that it was gone. I'm like, I'm aware that it isn't here right now.
Just waiting
for this nerve thing to wear off. I'll check in a week. I'll check in a week.
So when was the first time for you there is like, this is done?
It's come in layers. Wrapping up the Bryce Canyon run was really big. Just an emotional thing. Like, not just the run, but like the training for it. The fact that I'd committed and followed a training plan again. I haven't done that since I got hurt.
Yeah.
I haven't followed solid programming at all. I do what kind of feels okay for my body.
Yeah.
But I haven't done a thing that like, I have to run this far this week. You just have to do the time. And I did it all time-based because I knew that I could do that. There's going to be days I can't run, just my body's too beat up. But, you can go out there for 2 hours.
Yeah.
And so finishing that and then doing the run and then doing some other trail runs that we've done were more agile. Like, Brant, when we were in Montana and we went and cliff jumped at that last place, and then we ended up like that impromptu trail run to dodge all the mosquitoes on the way back. Yeah. Like, there was a lot of roots and stuff and moving. And,
it wasn't like a nice trail.
No, and so it was constant, like, kind of scrambling and up and over things and changing your cadence of run and all that, and like doing that. Like, I could feel like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I'm never thinking about my knee. I'm just running.
Yeah, you're just doing a thing.
And that, like, having that continually excites me when it does it.
So, for you, being this far removed with your knee now, I mean, is there something else that you're going to chase, or is it just feeling good?
Just feeling good.
Just feeling good.
Yeah, man. It's feeling good, and it's chasing. big life experiences. And so like doing the rafting trip in Africa on the Zambezi was awesome. And what a cool experience that was, man. Like everything from it, from the hike down, the traveling to get there, all of it, to getting in the river, our talks with the guides, to the camping on the beach and like just sleeping out inside under the stars and fucking Africa in the middle of Zimbabwe, and then every part of it. None of those days blend together.
That's awesome.
Right? And like none of those days blend. Like I know how long I was there and I know what happened every day. Yeah. And so I want more things like that. Yeah. Like I noticed time slows down in a lot of instances when everything's on and it's a new perspective and you're experiencing new things, because there's no autopilot for your brain to just switch to and fill in the gaps. You have to be on, and it's exhausting.
Oh man. I mean,
but it's the good stuff.
That's
like
the
it's
only
when
thing
when I'm doing something rad and I forget my phone exists.
Yeah.
I forget that there's this other thing, like, it's 2 days on the river and my phone doesn't work. Yeah. And so like world's really big again. And these are the only people in it.
I think that's one of the things I crave the most, man, when I travel, is like those moments when you like kind of like realize you're like, oh, I'm small. And not in like some way where like you're like, belittling yourself or some shit like that.
No, just reality.
Yeah, you're just like, oh, I'm small and this is pretty fucking cool.
Having an elephant like outside my door one night.
Oh, yeah.
Like in just a glass door between me and an elephant. Not some zoo with big glass or any of these type of things.
Yeah.
Like, there's a fucking elephant from here to Brand. And a glass door, which I'm aware doesn't stop elephants.
Yeah.
It very much so walk through.
And like, small again.
What was probably the biggest thing you took away from that trip other than that?
I don't have any problems.
Funny how that works, huh?
Yeah, and like the weird part is it's really easy to shift to guilt for what I have. It's really easy to go there when I didn't pick the starting ground I got for my life, and I'm very aware of it and I have a lot of gratitude for it, and I'm on the hunt. But I'm on the gas, right? I do not take this life for granted. And for them, like our porters and these guys that work, like the fucking level of effort and work these guys put in to make what isn't money.
Yeah.
And live in a mud hut. And I mean, look, maybe I'm simplifying it, but it's a hut. It would be an unacceptable place to live in St. Louis.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? That doesn't mean it wasn't clean and well organized looking and all those type of things, but it's dirt floor. And there's a stick to keep lions out at night. I don't have one of those.
Yeah.
You don't have a lion stick?
I don't have a lion log.
Gonna have to get one of those.
And like seeing these dudes haul in all of our food, and to haul in an ice chest with ice is one of those things of such, like, you hauled in a luxury.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, barefoot and like.
That's one thing I can't say that I've had. I've definitely been there and been like, holy shit, like I've got it good, or whatever. But I can't say I've ever had any guilt over it.
Well, the guilt to me was, I'm realizing that like our guide, right? Like he's 30 years old, 31 years old. Like he's rafting because this is a good job that pays better than other jobs. Like talks to us, seems educated, speaks a bunch of languages, I think he's got an engineering degree in something, and he's doing this. And it's not like he loves running rivers. This is the only river he's ever run.
Yeah.
Like that's not how it works for guides in America.
Yeah.
You've run a ton of rivers because you're obsessed.
Yeah.
He's only run this one, which is one of the gnarliest on the planet. And he's run it 300 times a year for 7 years.
Wow.
And like for no money, like that's a big work. That's a big risk of life.
Yeah.
Right. Like we got dumped out of the boat in a pretty gnarly section, and we all handled it well, but I'm aware that without a borrowed life jacket, I'm dead.
Yeah.
Like there's a $40 piece of equipment is the reason I'm currently alive.
Yeah.
And like that guy lives a fucking tough life, man. And I could see at the end of it, like when you go to tip and we tip our guides and do all that like the amount of money that changes his life is the amount of money I spend on bullshit.
Yeah.
And like, you'd feel a little guilty about that.
Yeah. I think it's more, for me, I think it's, if guilt ever creeps in any of those situations, it has more to do with like what I'm not doing.
Yes.
You
It's squandered opportunity.
Yeah. And I mean, not just that, like but squandered opportunities to help. You know what I mean? Like I find that the more I help, the less that's a thing. You know what I mean? And whether that is, you know, some crazy charity or even just helping like the dude a buddy.
Helping the dude, you know.
Yeah. You know, I mean, you know, like for me, that's a big deal. It's like.
Well, that's a huge deal. And y'all's community needs as much of it as possible, especially from guys on the inside that.
I think, you know, speaking for that community for sure, but even just in general right now, like the amount of guys that I have in my DM that are like, that sounds bad, but the amount of guys that I talk to on a regular basis that are not doing well, that are looking for a little, and I'll call it a little piece of coal to start their fire, is insane.
I really like that term.
You know, that's why I told you, like, I'm here for fuel for the fire.
Yeah,
because I know what it's like. I got a fire right now, right? Some people got a blaze, but then there's some dude right now who's just, he's smoking.
Yeah, dude. And like, I've said it, but like with our group of friends and our people that, you know, we hold close, that we have made our community with, like, you know, I just want people that want to breathe oxygen into your fire. And all of our friends do it.
That's it.
And we do it all for them.
Yeah, that's the thing for me. Like I said, it's just been momentum and focus, just because I don't want anybody who takes away from that.
Yep.
It's too short, man. I don't know what's, and then here's the thing, right? We get expiration dates on all kind of shit. We get expiration dates on our food. We get expiration dates on, you know, your warranty's going to stop working. We don't have one for us.
No.
And so I'm just gambling.
It's X minus one, dude.
Yeah.
Every day.
I'm just gambling. Like, I could go to sleep today. You know, I just recently had a friend pass, 40 years old, man. Went to bed.
Come on.
And didn't wake up.
Fuck, dude, there's a guy when we were in Africa. I hate that I keep saying Africa when I mean Zimbabwe. One's a continent.
Yeah. I got you.
Zimbabwe. So we're in Victoria Falls at the lodge we're staying at. There's a South African guy talking to us. And he's like, yeah, you know, he says, 5 or 6 years ago, I was driving, you know, with a buddy of mine, and I fucking had an aneurysm. Had a stroke.
Yeah.
Has a stroke, slumps over the steering wheel, like out of nowhere. He's bleeding out of his mouth. His friend manages to get the car stopped and get him off the road without a crash. But through the course of that stroke and that seizure that came with it, ends up like dislocating both of his shoulders, breaks both of his collarbones, tore.
Wow.
Oh, from the seizure.
Yeah, from the seizure.
Okay.
And like tore ligaments in both of his elbows and bicep tendons.
Wow.
And I'm like, so that's a thing that can just happen? That there's no warning about? And then like afterwards, the doctors were like, we don't know. And I'm like, fuck do you mean? So
I need answers, sir.
This is just one of those things that may happen today?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's a low percentage, but it's a percentage.
It's still a percentage.
I'll be honest, I probably think about it more than I should.
Or like aneurysms, man. Like, no time is guaranteed here.
Yeah.
These things glitch out all the time. These
there's
machines
a guy
are fucking crazy.
During our pre-scuba who fit dude, super in shape. And that's what happened to him. Aneurysm. Boom. It's like, so I mean, you know, like it goes back to the same thing. Like, yeah, I don't have time, and I'm interested in pushing this ball as far as possible. You know, I try and push the rock every day. But so when I hear stories about like you going to Africa, and then all these other things, I don't know. I get super excited. So then also like going back to the original thing when you're talking about like being guilty and like feeling like that, like it's just like, I don't know for me personally if I have that, because I realize that there's so many people who don't get either option.
Yeah.
Right? They don't have, because you know, you talk about this guy in Zimbabwe, right? And I don't know. I didn't meet him, but what does he value? Because it might not be the thing for him, right? You know,
well, I know the engineering wasn't right.
Yeah.
It seems it seems he likes doing rivers.
Yeah.
However, he's also currently working to become a safari guide.
Yeah.
Because he's aware of money that comes in the tourism industry, and he's got personality. Like he can talk, and, and he's great at shooting the shit. So he's got something there. He's got charisma.
Yeah.
And the best use of charisma is not as an engineer.
For sure.
And most engineers don't have any. And so he's figured it out. And like the way to the next level is doing the safari thing, right? Because then it's less risk. It's way easier, and you can do it for a way longer time than running a river every day.
That makes sense. I just wonder, man, like sometimes we talk about these things and like I forget because like what I value isn't necessarily what the other person values.
No, right.
You know, like don't get me wrong, I think money's important. It's become more important to me lately just because I'm trying to get more options, but it's not my ruling value. It's not my ruling factor.
It's not like God.
You know, for me, it's more about like my ruling value is probably all based on time and being able to share that time with the people I give a shit about, you know, because, you know, this is the other thing too, with the other side of the coin of like military contracting and deploying all the time. It's like you come back and you're trying to fit 6 months, you know, you're trying to fit a lot of stuff into 6 months.
Right.
Or 3 months.
Man, I bet it is so rushed when you're back on the ground, right? Like, to like, well, I'm dad for 6 months. I'm back to being husband.
Yep. Or 45 days or whatever, you know, depending on like, you know, talking about military or contractor or whatever version of that it is for it, for whoever it is.
And that transition's got to be gnarly.
You know, and so for me, for like the last 4 years, it's been like, you know, I'll take a 30-day break, a 45-day break. You know, thanks to COVID, I had a nearly a year break. But, you're trying to fit all that into that itty bitty time period. And it's like the more noise, it's just you don't have time for noise. I have time for music. You know what I mean? I have time for this thing that's really good. And if it's noise, I don't want to be a part of it. And so as I transition away and I hear like your stories and everybody else's stories of the guys that I'm kind of like moving towards in that lifestyle, I can't help but think like how often like most of us are missing it, or we're not. We're trapped in noise. Or how often I'm trapped in noise, and that's the reason why I haven't moved to the next level.
Well, I think people get caught in. I kind of describe it like if life is working your way through a maze, but it's a bit linear. I guess the way I would look at it, right? So like you'd start over here and death is here. Mm-hmm. And so as you're working through and you're figuring things out and you end up on a path and like, the path is going. And then you realize it's not going anywhere else.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make it a bad path, but at some point you have to decide that this was far enough to go down the path. And sometimes the only way to get out is backwards, is shutting it down and bailing on it and trying to find a different direction. You know, but I understand why people get so far down a road with time invested. Like I can't bail on the thing. I've already put 9 years into this, instead of realizing that the only time that matters is the one coming.
Yeah. So kind of a different thought. As you've kind of progressed through hate and kind of creating this life or whatever, I call it like understanding like your power and your value or whatever. How much more does that happen to you? Like where you realize like I'm curating this life rather than like just like letting it happen to me. Because I think a lot of times like we're just letting life happen to us. And then at some point in time you realize you're like, holy shit, I just let that happen instead of just taking care of whatever I was supposed to take care of, or making the decision, you know, instead of letting it play out. So how much more like now for you does that like become apparent, I guess?
It's a double-edged sword, just like anything else. Like it's super empowering. It's super empowering to know that I can create, and I can create big things. Yeah. You know, whether that's building out the gym or studio or building a house and doing any of these things. Like I know that I can do that, and I know that the resources have found me. Mm-hmm. So that part's really empowering. That part, knowing that I just don't think that there's anything I can't figure out if I'm willing to really focus on it and try.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work out, I have to be able to admit that I didn't give enough of a shit. So for stuff to work for me, like I know it has to be full commitment and full obsession. And knowing that I'm building it and it is my world and it is all the things I want, and it becomes insulating.
Yeah.
Because I don't deal with much inconvenience. Because I don't have to go to places, right? Like, so my food's all delivered to the house.
Yeah.
I don't deal with grocery stores and people.
Yeah.
And that's how I prefer my life, is insulated from only the things I feel like doing.
But I mean,
the negative side of that is if there is something that's entered my world I don't like, I've let it in.
It's full accountability.
It's full accountability. You have to own both sides of it. And if you're upset so that's one for me. I was like, why are you upset? You control everything in your world.
So the way I've been saying it is, the more me I become, and the more I like everything about myself, and I'm okay with the things I don't like about myself, the more I realize how much that matters. Like, you let this in here, you let this person get close to you, you chose this job or whatever it is. Like, you're, even from like when we were talking about earlier, like your focus and willpower for like when it comes to Thursday night and I fall off the rails of my diet.
Yeah.
Like, this is a completely a me problem that I created.
Right. And that's so, and with that, like one of those things, like Bonnie likes sweets. I can, if they're not in the house, I'm fine. Right. And so she has said things like, well, I don't want it around because it's blah, blah, blah for you. I'm like, yo, that's a me problem. That's a me discipline problem.
Exactly.
You withholding you because I can't control me, that's a me fuck up. I'll never be mad at you for that.
Yeah.
You're like, well, you always have snacks around the house. Like, get fucked, you weak pit. Just a weak fuck, man, right? Like nah, man, have the discipline to look at it and say, I don't want it.
So,
which I don't do great.
No, I mean, dude, I do a good job with this thing. Even now that I've gotten past the whole Monday through Thursday thing is like, I don't sleep well. And so by Thursday, I'm so fucking tired. Like, there's no such thing as willpower.
So why do you not sleep well?
I just have always slept like shit, man. And then now, like, I got all the way up to 270. Sleep apnea runs hard in the military.
Well, now that you're not in the military, we get you some of these Delta 8 joints.
Yeah, soon. Yeah. They sleep apnea is a big deal in the military. It's one of the things that's they don't question if it's service related or not. So like when you get out of the military and you go through your veterans affairs and they're trying to decide your disability level and everything else, if you have sleep apnea, they don't question whether you got it from the service. They're just like, you did, period.
Okay.
Like, we did this. They don't.
So what causes it?
So from my understanding, when I went and got diagnosed and everything
I've always
else,
thought it was just being fat.
So that's a huge factor. Neck size, and just being huge. Like, you don't even have to be fat. If you're just
no. I just use the term fat for
You could just be big, but apparently it's just
having a thing that helps you breathe at night. It's a bit fat. Let's not pretend that it isn't.
Oh, it's fucking huge. I got a thing that's shoving air
to
down
pretend
my
that
throat.
you're doing that because things are complete optimal for a healthy human. It's fucking not true.
The fact that what is it? Stand efforting, and then even the NFL, like when they first get guys in there, like the first thing you guys want to do is like
get a CPAP.
Go get a CPAP.
Yeah,
like
you all need it.
Yeah, there's something there. But yeah, so if you're a soldier, like that, it's one of those things that they just say, like, hey, you got it.
So stress, those type of things.
I think it has to do with the fact that a lot of us have irregular sleep cycles.
Mm-hmm.
You do crazy sleep for a long time. You'll stay up for days at a time.
No, you guys can just crash out anywhere.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll go to sleep anywhere. Staying asleep is a problem for me, right? And then now with sleep apnea, I've had it now for years, but like, I sound like a monster.
No, dude, I've had people. Who was it? I had someone recently that was talking about it. Brings a CPAP. He traveled in, and maybe in George. I don't know if it was George or not, but saying like 85 decibels.
Oh man,
is what he snores at. Like,
I don't know what it is. I know
wasn't that fucking Iceland?
Oh, Body. No, not Body. Glenn.
Hancé.
Oh, it is Hancé.
Wasn't it Hancé?
Yeah, Hancé snores at like 85 decibels.
That's insane.
Hancé,
that's loud.
He's a machine.
Yeah. I can't even. I know mine's loud.
You could hear it in the whole house. Like,
that's wild.
That's why I bring mine. I don't even bring it because I bring mine and wear it because I'm just like,
because it's rude.
I'm sorry. Like this is show up like, so you know this is for you.
Whereas if you yelled all night, like I wouldn't find that acceptable. But the fact that he's a terrible guy, Sal, just fucking screams all night.
Yeah, exactly. At one point in time, I had a 200-pound Mastiff and then me snoring in the room. So
oh my God. And those things are just as loud.
Yeah, it's just bad. It was my ex-wife. I was like, oh, I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry. Like, you just got to deal with this.
600 pounds in the bed.
Yeah, it was not good. But yeah, I sleep like trash, man. So then by Thursday, what I come to find out is any willpower that exists is gone. Normally Monday I show up or whatever. You guys got snacks and sweet. I don't care. Whatever. Thursday.
Yeah, it's better than losing it on Wednesday, I suppose.
Hey, but now, you know, kind of figuring out, getting in control. So it's like what you said, like, you know, you have enough willpower or just discipline to do it. But then there's still things, man, like cookies and peanut butter for me.
Dude, I'm telling you, like I treat it like with the same tools that AA uses. That it's just like, oh, I just don't eat like a piece of shit this meal.
Yeah.
We'll deal with the next one when we get there.
Yeah. I get it. That's for me, the other thing too has been like if it's food prepared and with me. The other time is like, man, if it's prepared and with me, I'm good.
Same. I'll eat anything.
Man, I spent a day, I don't know where I was or what I was doing. And I didn't have any food with me, and I was just out, and I was like, I'm gonna try and be sensible.
He's trying to be sensible.
I'm gonna try and be sensible. Yeah, I'm like, I'm just gonna. And it's when I realized, as I'm looking at like people's menus, I'm like, there is no such thing.
No.
At any of these places.
No. We've built that whole thing out.
Yeah, like you.
That's the thing I noticed being in Europe.
Yeah.
The food culture is so different than the U.S.
You mean things are portioned?
So even hanging out with like our counterparts when we're downrange, man, like I was hanging out with a bunch of Spanish soldiers and I can't remember some other countries, but anyways, I'm going to breakfast with these guys every morning, and so they get their breakfast before me, and I'm looking, and I'm like, it's like a tomato.
Yeah, is the fact that you guys look like powerlifters very confusing to them? They're like, what the fuck, man? Why is everyone over 210?
I remember one of the guys, man, he looks over at my plate and he says, that's all for you? And I'm, yeah. And then I look at him, like, he's got like a deli meat, like a little piece of turkey.
Deli meat.
Like, maybe like a slice of tomato and something else, so cheese, and then a boiled egg.
Oh, dude.
One. I'm like, I don't think I've eaten boiled egg.
I struggled in Dubai with breakfast every morning.
Oh, man.
Like, I normally I don't eat breakfast.
Yeah.
So normally I'm good with the intermittent fasting. However, if I've got to go downstairs to have coffee and go to the breakfast buffet, I'm going to consume something.
Yeah.
And so, like, I'm trying to be good about it. I'm like, oh, cool, get eggs, and they do an omelet. I can do that. I don't like eggs that much. What I want is bacon.
Yeah.
And they don't do bacon.
Nope.
Well, they do on Friday nights.
Oh, they
Totally cool there. They put it behind a screen. Ugh. But, like, it was this terrible turkey bacon that just looked like an old Band-Aid. And then, like, these chicken sausages, which weren't great either.
Yeah.
But those were, like, the only two meat protein options in the
beef
morning.
bacon.
They didn't have any.
They didn't.
They did this turkey bacon.
Yeah. The beef bacon's not much better, in my
Dude,
opinion.
turkey is just an overrated. Why do we fucking bother? I don't understand why we use it for Halloween, like for not Halloween. It's typical
it's like,
Halloween food, as they say.
It's like only good on like a cold sandwich, and it's not.
That's
even,
it.
And it's honestly,
it's
like all right.
And it takes 11 hours for it to cook to be good on a cold sandwich the next day.
I stopped for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I did too. We do ribeyes.
Yeah.
Fucking noise.
Yeah. Now that I'll be back, it's back to ribeyes or what. Like I think last year I was here, I did ribeye roast for the entire family.
Yeah, dude, we did it the last couple of years. Like that's the way to go.
Yeah.
Like, well, stay classy, send stuff, and then we just do that, right? But like turkey, I just don't understand why we bother, right? Like if turkey was good, we'd eat it more often. For one, we wouldn't just save it for the turkey. Whoever's running the turkey game that's trying to do this hard marketing for Thanksgiving and Christmas, like get your turkeys.
It wouldn't just be bodybuilders and
or twice a year.
Yeah,
that we would all want to try to put 14 hours into this American meal of cooking this turkey when Like you have to brine it. Like there's a lot of steps in making turkey not suck.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And then it's still hit or miss.
I did a turducken one year.
Ribeye.
Yeah.
Yo, salt, pepper, fire. And it's better than any turkey that's ever been prepared.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. I did a turducken one year. That's how much I was trying to get away from it. I was
yeah. We did those too.
Yeah. I didn't mind that as much.
No, that's fine.
But
the best is, do you ever do fried turkey the way, like, okay. So that being from the South is killer. It's the only way to really.
I think it's not bad. I still, like you said, I would much rather go with the ribeye route. And 100%. Yeah.
Now we started frying like a speckle belly goose every year. And like that thing never made it in the house. Like that was just for who was outside cooking. Yeah. This was our appetizer for before we'd ever get in the house with the turkey.
Never done it.
Dude, it's so good. The goose fat, plus it's just so delicate and just rich.
I'm down to eat anything.
Same.
So
That lamb.
I've had so much lamb. I'm not gonna say
I'm not gonna say
I'm good on it. About the only thing I'm done eating ever, and it's spice, is curry.
Okay.
I hung out with these Nepalese dudes for probably 6 months. And so I had breakfast, lunch, and dinner with them.
Curry.
Everything was curry. All different versions of curry. And I don't know enough about curry to know, like, I would still eat this one. So to me, it all just goes in the same bag. I was like, I've had enough curry.
I'm good for a bit.
I'm good. And it's been years. And I still think about it, and I'm like, And it's bad because it was good food. It wasn't like it wasn't like it was bad food, but it's so strong, it's so powerful, and you're just like, nah, I'm good for a long,
how about
time.
just some rice would be sick for a bit. Rice and turkey.
Yeah, I probably switched to turkey had I done it. But I mean, I don't know, man. That's the thing. Getting on food, that's how I travel. I travel via like food. So like,
dude, food rules. And I get why people have such a hang up, because you can't just stop eating. And it is such an experience. I've really worked hard to try to find the difference in, is this meal an experience? And is the meal the experience, not the where we're going?
Yeah.
Or is this fuel?
Well, I think that's, I'm talking about like focus and dieting and everything else. Like, that's a big thing for me, is like, excuse me.
Oh, no worries.
People were, making the excuse of like, well, food is my fun or whatever. Or like, this is my enjoyment.
I need to find better fucking hobbies.
When I started thinking about it, because I'd say that shit too. I'm like, that bag of Doritos that I smashed while I was watching whatever TV show it was, that wasn't really enjoyable. I mean, it's delicious. Don't get me wrong. It's Doritos. Like they are fucking delicious.
Plus, you can use them to start a fire.
Hey, so the move is to take them and put them in a pepper grinder, and now you have your own Dorito seasoning.
Come on, that life hack.
Yeah, it's fat kid status, man.
Yo, man, I'm so into that.
It's good.
I also love the baller ass status of having a third grinder on your table and be like salt, pepper, Dorito.
Cool Ranch. Cool Ranch
Dorito and a pepper grinder rules.
But yeah, so that's one of the things I realized. I was like, how often I was using that as a bullshit excuse. Like, this is for enjoyment. And I was like, no, it's not. This is just you, whatever.
Fucking coping.
Yeah, but then, like, talking about experiences, like, that's such a big deal. Like, you're going to a place with a person, the food is really good, But
even then, is the meal the thing?
I think it can be.
It can be.
Yeah.
It fully can be, right?
Yeah.
But like, there's big dinners or something like that I've gone to.
Yeah.
And the place is great and the experience is great, but the food
is
subpar.
Yeah.
It's food.
Yeah. I get that. I try my damnedest to pick really, like, because the way I've started to kind of look at it now is, I don't want to say like a bank account, but I kind of look at it like, do I want to spend this on that?
That's how you have to look at it.
You know what I mean? Like, if I'm going to go here.
Was that worth the hour this morning?
Yeah, exactly. And
most of the time, cookies is the answer is yes for me.
For cookies, yes, it is. It really is.
It was great. I'll do 2 tomorrow. That's just fine by me.
And so, I find that they're so linked. Like, I was actually writing about it this morning. Like, those experiences between the food and the actual, company or whatever, it's so linked. And so I try to make sure that the food's hit. It's not a miss, and then you have both. Because it's funny, right? Like, you'll go and you'll do these dinners or these experiences or whatever, and sometimes you cannot recall a single thing that was said.
Nope.
But just
also have plenty of time I can't recall the menu.
Yeah, but just like I can look back on it and be like, fuck yeah. Like that was dope. Or, maybe a sentence or a phrase or something that was said or a feeling. And like, that's the thing for me. It's like, oh man, that's why I'm, continuing to search these
It's a moment that doesn't blend with another.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like it's a new wrinkle of like, it just doesn't blend to another memory.
Yeah, that's at the end of the day, that's what it is. You're searching for like little moments, little bits of magic, right? Like that's what it is. Those little pieces in time where they stand out, and you're like, oh wait, this is pretty fucking cool.
Yeah,
because like you said, you can just get lost in the day to day, the minutia of everything, and just like, this is what I do. Especially for like, do you have like a regular 9 to 5 or whatever else? I mean, like when I first got to Hawaii, this is what I thought was kind of shitty or sad. I was working, regular job, whatever, as a soldier, and I'm just going home to sit on my couch and watch Netflix.
Yeah, it's easy.
And I was like, this is fucking Hawaii.
You're in Hawaii.
Yeah, like there's a beach that's like, at the bare minimum, you can just go sit there and take in something that somebody else will never see.
But man, the gravity of that fucking couch and Netflix. That's what gets me every night.
And so it's okay. But for me, like what I started to realize, I realized much later, my body and brain don't do well with that. Like once or twice a week, maybe 3 times a week. I'm all about some movies. Don't get me wrong.
Look, and for me, I maybe get 45 minutes.
Yeah.
That's my everyday shut it down.
So that's hard. That's the part that's hard. Again, like I don't really do anything kind of minimal.
Sure.
So 45 minutes turns into this whole season looks good.
Oh, shit.
Like it's 4 a.m. and I'm like, I got to get up.
See, I pass out.
Like I'll pass out and then I wake back up
and stay in.
And I will. Well, I guess we're up now.
Oh man.
Like so, because what'll happen is I'll wake up, I'll pass out, wake up, and then I'll try and go back to sleep. And then I give myself like a time limit. I'm like, well, this has been an hour and a half of just fighting.
See, I won't do that anymore.
I just get up and just go with it, man, at that point.
Usually I'll fall asleep on the couch watching or in the beanbags, fall asleep watching something. And then when I wake up from that, it's time to go get flat.
Yeah.
So that'll transfer up into bed, usually put something on.
Yeah.
But once I fall asleep during that, like the TV's off.
See, I turn the TV off, but it'll, like I said, I'm just laying there trying to get back to sleep, and I'll just be like, oh, I guess this is where we are.
I'll have erratic wake up times, but if I wake up in the middle of the night, for the most part, I can go back to sleep.
Yeah, that's not really for me. But and then it's bad. So here's the bad part: is like I'm extremely like sunlight sensitive. Sun's up, there is no such thing as sleeping in for me.
Use an eye mask or anything?
I either have to use an eye mask or complete blackout. I am not one of these people. Some of these people go to bed and
I'm without knowing that that's really how I am. I'm very much like if it's sunlight, I'd rather be awake.
Yeah, me too. And it hits. So I mean, even those nights where it's like 2, 3 a.m., I'm like, I guess I'm up and we're doing this. And it's game on. And then, like I said, then by Wednesday, Thursday, I'm
trashed.
I'm trashed.
Yeah.
Like I just be like, find me somewhere. Like
fuck anyone who thinks you can't bank sleep. By the way, I'm very aware that you can.
I mean,
you can rerun, get the hours back after like 1 or 2 hard days of sleep.
Down forever. I remember at one of my lowest points, pulling into my parking space, putting it in park, lights out.
Come on,
lights out. One of my
just woke up the next morning.
No. One of my people found me. They're like, "Hey, got anything you're supposed to be doing?" And I was like, "What time is it?" And luckily, I'd only been out for like 15 minutes, but literally pull in, park, boom, gone, and had
just a moment of eyes closed, and they didn't come back up.
Had they not knocked on that window, I'd probably be here till this day,
still sleeping, like just still out.
I remember being like, "This is
the
he was best ever, man." Like, but yeah. That's just one of those
ones.
Dude,
cars get hard, man. If the right warmth and like the sun coming in.
I talked to a trucker once about like all the little tips he had about staying awake in his truck.
What do he have?
He was like, take the bass all the way out of your music.
It's like I jerk off to.
Probably. Here's the craziest one. He said he put a fucking teddy bear in his passenger seat, and we talked to it. And I was just like, all right. I guess it matters because, I mean, if you have a passenger there, sometimes you can
Shit. I mean, I just end up talking to myself.
Like, yeah, I do too.
Yeah, I'm usually cursing myself.
I catch myself listening to podcasts and I want to be part of the conversation. I'm like, but the thing you're referencing isn't what you're saying.
Yeah. So the other one, I try to stay away from these though. Is like, you're talking about putting on podcasts. I'll put on something I don't like. Because anger is a good,
great.
It's a good one.
Like, what would that be for you? What's your thing that's just going to get you worked to the gills?
It's not a specific thing, man. I don't know. I'd have to find some, but there's a couple. I'm not a big Ben Shapiro fan. That guy.
I don't really listen to any of the talking heads.
I don't either.
There's some stuff I really like about Jordan Peterson. Mm-hmm. And Jordan Peterson is becoming a character of Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
And it's how it works.
Yep. I try not to get into all that stuff, but just by virtue of like my business or my former business, you just encounter it. You're going to encounter it, right? And so also to stay informed, I kind of got to go there.
Yeah.
And so, I'll go there and I'll listen just to kind of know what's going on and what people are saying and everything else. But it's mind numbing for me because I'm just like, I just want to solve the problem.
Right. And how you go about solving the problem to me has always been less important as long as the problem gets solved. Whereas we have a lot of people right now on both sides that also, unless you've decided to solve the problem the way they want you to solve it, it's not okay.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong. This is not just a bench, either side, either whatever. I can't. Once we start talking about this kind of stuff and we start getting like that, I'm like, listen, okay, I hear the problem. I don't want to talk about all the
nuance.
No, I want to talk about the nuance, but all the stuff that doesn't matter, which is typically what we get caught in. Right, nuance I think is perfect. It's where we should be having some.
We should have more of it.
Yeah,
I think it's because we've become more of a text-based society.
It's funny is I just had a long conversation with somebody. I was like, listen, if we have a problem, we won't discuss this over text message ever.
Nope.
And I was like, because too much gets lost in that. And, I did it. I've done that before where you're texting people back and forth, whether it's business or work or whatever. I mean, just anything. It's just like, I'm not doing this with you anymore because
it gets really dehumanizing.
Yep. And even on a not angry or whatever level, right? Like I reconnected with a buddy of mine. And he was like, yo, I had no idea like what you sounded like now. He's like, I thought it was all bullshit.
Yeah.
He said, you say you're happy. And he was like, I just thought you were just putting on a show. And he's like, but then I talked to you and I'm like, yeah, this is what happens when we're humans and we interact and we actually decide to call or whatever. But
so we learned really early, or we've known in psychology, right, that like nonverbal communication makes up 90% of the way that we interact with people. It's the way their eyes work, it's the way their inflection sounds, it's the mood they're in, it's their posturing, it's all these type of things. And if we switch to a text-based society, we've gotten rid of all that.
And you're left with guessing. And then
or it's worse.
Yeah.
It's worse than guessing. You're reading it in the context of the mood you're in.
Yeah. I mean, taking it right back. That's your judgment. Say more about, because that's exactly what's happened to me recently. Is like, and it continues to happen. Is I'm like, oh, it's like you said, like you're in a shitty mood, so you see this as a shitty mood.
Of course.
Whereas this is just a question, or it's just a thing, and we're here to talk about it. And people,
when you're in the mood that you're being attacked, everything's an attack.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, those are the things. If I'm worked up over something, it usually has to do with the fact that like. I think people come off too often, and I know I come off this way, but I try to modulate it a little bit as like they know everything / they're not looking for the question, whereas I'm typically trying to look for a question, right? I think you ask better questions, you get better answers.
I think that's fair.
And so when we're talking about these things, whether it's political or like moral, ethical or whatever, like we're all. This is the answer. This is the way things should be. And I just can't hear you.
No. Well, one of the issues with knowing everything, right, is there's nothing to learn.
Yeah.
And I'm someone that wants to be around people who are interested in learning. And part of one of the things I really struggle with. And so back to accountability on everything, whether that's the media, whether that's the way our politicians act or any of that, to me, it's our fault.
Yeah,
because
100%.
We switched to a society for a while now that doesn't allow people to make mistakes at any level. And if we don't allow fuck ups, they'll lie to us.
Okay.
That's what we chose.
Yeah. I think that too. And then the fact that people like you become so jaded in the system that you allow the system to work without participating in it. Right. Like, I don't know, somebody was talking about some kind of gas tax that they're trying to implement that's hidden in some bill or something. And I was like, and they were like, well, I'm going to do all these things. And I was like, or you could just write or call your congressman.
Yeah.
You could just, I mean, that works. I mean, I know people don't think it works, but the hunting community proves it wrong. The hunting community does a really good job of, hey, we don't want this. And then on Instagram, like 3 days later, they've got a petition of whatever. And
That's interesting.
And that bill goes away.
It's interesting. I would fall into the category of someone who doesn't think that works.
So I was the same way. I 100% was the same way, but I've seen it too many times now with a couple of categories, like hunters or...
and they just grassroots it.
Yeah.
Not the NRA, not that type of...
they're terrible. No. And I don't mean they're terrible like they're terrible in like getting people to come together to fix them.
Gotcha.
Again, they're more worried about whatever they're worried about, in my opinion. Right? Like and then I saw Rob Wolf with a bill in reference to like meat production and like third parties or something like that. They still lost, but they did. It was crazy. Like you see, he put out a video where he actually showed this is how you do it. You call,
right.
Yeah, he was like, you call, you say this, and then you hang up. And same thing. Their petitions were, through the roof.
Interesting.
And so, the more I see that, the more I'm like, do I trust the system 100%? No. I think you'd be a fool if you did.
Yeah.
But what I do know for a fact is if we don't do anything, we continue to get this. And the only people who care are the loons, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's...
I shouldn't say loons, but
no, but I know what you mean. Look, it's too far either way.
Yeah, for sure.
Too far any direction is
horrible.
It is, and it is a really strange thing because I find myself in the middle, and there isn't a good representative for how I feel.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same way. Like,
because
I want more rights and freedom and all human rights.
Like, what's his name? Connor Wanders. He's got that politically homeless. That's what he's, and that's exactly how I feel.
Yeah.
I'm like, I have no.
Man, I've known him a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. He originally was running a podcast called Pleasure Monkey, and he had got it from Aubrey.
Yeah.
And then Connor's one of the first guys who was around on it I'd met when I started.
Oh, that's awesome.
In that direction. Yeah, he's been on the show.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I don't know him. We've DM'd back and forth a couple of times because he said some stuff about Afghanistan or whatever, and I'd be like, hey, like this is the truth. Like, but
where do you think people fuck that up? I mean, the truth first, what we're told.
Man, I mean that's a huge.
It's a big question.
Yeah, it's a huge can of worms. I think so. Like, I mean, just taking what just happened recently, right? We'll take a small version, right? I think yesterday I watched part of the hearings about what happened in Afghanistan with the withdrawal or whatever. And I am nowhere on that level, but just simple things, right? Like, so they're talking about a non-combatant evacuation. And so we have politicians asking about this non-combatant evacuation that don't understand what that means.
I don't understand that.
So a non-combatant evacuation is like a civilian. So like everybody who works at the embassy.
Gotcha.
Right? And so fall Saigon, Iran, when they overthrew the Shah, you see the helicopters come in, take all the embassy dudes out. That's a NEO. That's a non-combatant evacuation.
Gotcha.
And so when they're talking about that, they're asking questions as if it's the same thing as the military. And it's not. Does the military facilitate that when it happens? Yes.
So it's a third party.
Yeah. Well, it's a State Department /
okay.
Whoever.
So it's not the military.
No. And so just like
now, do they use military personnel to get the job done?
Yeah, when it happens. Yeah.
Okay.
So now it's just like when you talk about the withdrawal of Afghanistan.
But the Army doesn't make the decision.
No, so like the State Department has, their people on ground in the embassy, and then, shit goes south. We'll just, to simplify it, the button is pushed now Marines and military
are told to go get these people.
Yes.
Right. So the Marines and military don't make the decision.
No.
Gotcha.
No. I mean, from my understanding.
I'm just making sure I'm getting a full grasp of what you mean by the difference between, this isn't a military thing.
So meaning like when they say like, hey, we left our civilians, like they were staying because they were staying to operate an embassy.
Right.
That
was a job.
Yeah, it was a job. I mean, now the people that were outside of that purview, I can't talk about. I don't know, but just to couch it in a proper fashion, like we're all talking about this, like these guys were left behind. Like, no, they stayed behind because they had a job. Like there's an embassy in not every country, but most of them.
Yeah.
And so just that simple thing alone, when you start talking about it, I'm just like, I don't have time for this.
There's so much over dramatizing of every point, because if both sides at this point know that if they can get outrage on their side, they win.
Well, that's what I saw yesterday. For me personally, what I saw, and this is what I rarely get truly frustrated with this kind of stuff, but what I did get frustrated about was in an attempt to get answers and find a way ahead. Instead, what we got were people trying to prop their party up, prop themselves up, and place blame. Now, blame needs to be placed for accountability purposes. However, I think the more important thing here is to figure out like how we don't ever do this again, or where the failures actually were.
Then we have to admit we made a mistake. That's not been our strong suit.
There's a huge culture problem, I think.
It's a huge culture problem I see too. Like, man, I tend to fall a bit in the category of anyone who would want to run for president should probably not allow them to be able to run for president. I don't think anyone who can do the job really well would want the job.
You're looking for some Marcus Aurelius character in his garden somewhere, and we're like, hey, guy, we need you. He fights us for it.
No, it's a business move.
Yeah.
To be that mascot, it's a fucking business move.
There's a lot of things I do. There's a lot of things I'd like, I don't see how you wake up one morning and go, that's it.
President.
Oh, man.
Like, dude, I'm at an age right now, right? Like almost at 40, that I'll start seeing stuff and it's like this 28-year-old senator. I'm like, what a fucking different road you were on, my friend. Like, because like you're into it at 28, which means you were into this probably at 18. Yeah. I'm like, man, I was fucking off hardcore. How are you a senator?
I had a friend.
People trust you.
He goes, they're talking shit about a bunch of politicians and one thing. And this guy is back of the office. He's like, you know what? You're probably right. They probably are all idiots, but we can't even sit at the same fucking table as them. And I started thinking about that. I was like, oh, at 28, it's like you said, I was...
No way.
Probably at a Waffle House.
Yeah, man.
Wasted at 3 a.m. Like, just this guy's over here,
trying to figure out how laws get made.
Yeah.
Like he's already schmoozing really gross people.
Balancing.
Because that world has got to be the ugliest, like schmoozy.
I couldn't imagine it.
Oh God. Like that's another thing, right? We've been aware, like it's been in jokes and culture, media and music, that the government and politics are dirty.
Mm-hmm.
Have they convinced us in the last 2 years that they're not?
I think so. For some people.
How the fuck has that been possible?
That's what I've been saying, man. It's funny you say that.
We've known this forever. Are these guys and lawyers are good guys now? Like we're going to fucking make that switch?
It's funny you say that because it's like, I think as a kid, like you growing up, especially in the kid in the 80s and 90s, right? Like all the movies were like lawyers and politicians.
Bad dudes.
Like, bad dudes. And so whenever I see people that are kind of like cheering for these politicians, even people,
they don't give a fuck about us.
Even people who aren't politicians that become politicians, I'm like, it's same.
Yo, man,
like this
don't give a fuck.
No.
Well, I think I had said this like in a previous podcast or something too, but like even the ones that have the good intentions that want to try and make change that go in, there's just too much
for sure
shit that they just get eaten. And
I think so.
They just kind of turns back in full circle, I
think if I'm telling you, and I don't recommend it, but like if you want to see just a full shit show of how bad it is, yesterday was a great example. Because it was just...
It frustrates me.
So I watched it and I was like, I'll watch this for a little while. And then I got sucked in with like the hate vibe.
Well, but can you imagine being on either side? and watching that and feeling like your team's winning. Like, that's what I don't understand, right? Like, and that's what people love. We've now made sports that CNN watches the same way as fucking PTI does on ESPN. Like, it's scrolling. It's amazing what that show has fucking influenced, by the way.
My, yeah.
Every show fucking took on its strategy, from political to morning shows. It shows what topics are fucking coming up and how long is left on each one.
Yeah.
It's fucking incredible. It all came from PTI, you fucking brilliant bastards.
I mean, I used to watch a hell of PTI, so.
But sure,
Sports Center in general.
But you can see what I'm saying, right?
Yeah,
like, every show took on the PTI format.
It's a good one for
those two dudes just yelling at each other.
It's a good one for people to spark outrage, man. Especially guys that, like I said, they're not on the internet, or they're not on the internet because they're on Facebook yelling at each other. But they're not watching other things or trying to find a nuanced position. Like, that's a great way to just stoke the fire, man.
And I think a lot of people have built up fucking rage and or resentment for how things have ended up.
I think so, but I think it's easy too. Like, it goes back. Like, if you're so focused on this, what are you not focused on?
Of course. Well, it's easy to focus. Like I said, if you've made it this far into a tunnel to a place that things are okay, but you're bored and not happy.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to focus that the problem is elsewhere, other than realize you have to hit a detonate button.
Yeah, I have a very close friend right now who I refuse to talk about politics or anything with. Not because of any other reason that it is an escape for them to not deal with their shit.
Right.
And I've told them flat out several times. I'm like, you only care about this because this is a way for you to not handle any of the things that are wrong in your life.
I believe that's true too. I believe that's true for a lot of people, man. That
I mean, start talking about
people buy into fear a lot. Like, look, two things we export are fucking war and fear. That's basically it. And now that, traveling more, and traveling to Africa, into Zimbabwe, going through Johannesburg and doing a lot of flights from Ethiopian airport runs a little bit different than fucking St. Louis.
Yeah.
Same, different.
Yeah.
And so, like, having more of those experiences, right, and seeing other ways the world works and that the world still functions. I just feel like there's this veil that's given to most Americans because they don't internationally travel, that everywhere is fucked.
Oh,
except
100%.
Here.
Yeah. 100%.
This is the only way it's ever done. Like, even simple stuff for me is like seeing water towers in other countries, and you realize they're a different structure.
Yeah.
And it's because they figured out water towers too. They didn't copy us.
Or the fact that it's been around.
That's exactly right. That of course that there's not just one way to build water towers. That's the best. There's different manufacturers and you can do whatever it is. I get lost on some things.
No, I understand. It's just for me, I always think about it too. It's like the same thing, but I think about it. Well, they were here before. So of course this is, but like putting that context into somebody who, and I read some crazy stat about like most people, not just Americans, but Americans, I think they have it down to like a certain mileage, don't leave outside of their hometown, like 30 miles outside of their hometown. And it's some like overwhelming percentage of Americans. And so when you start putting it in that perspective and you go, well, like this is the world and this is what it's like. And then why can't you see this?
Because they can't. Because they just don't have a frame of reference. I think without that experience that travel brings, like
empathy,
of course, but there's something that I'd heard recently. It's like, so without experience, everything's an opinion. Oh, and I like that.
Yeah.
And so, not seeing the way these other places live and not traveling outside of your comfort zone, like it does make a huge difference. And like I've talked about it quite a bit, but it's how I think about my dad, and I think about like who his 6 closest friends were. And you're talking about just one generation ago. Yeah. And it's not to any fault of his own, but it's to the advantage now of how open we have been. Like the fact that you and I can be friends and get to hang out and should have never crossed physical paths. Like we weren't going to bump into each other without the internet.
That's 100% true.
Any of these other number of people. And so I've got this incredible resource of humans that have such different experience in life than I do, that it can make me think about my perspective and maybe go, maybe it's not like that every way, or it doesn't have to be this thought. But my dad's 5 people are from his place.
Yeah.
So they have the same perspective. And so it's an echo chamber of sorts. And now we end up in our own, now in a different way.
Yeah.
Because you can find rooms that'll echo any of the thoughts you have.
And you won't even know the other rooms exist.
But man, having the advantage to reach out people that do have this different perspective, like, you know, if I feel a certain way about like, man, this shit with Afghanistan, blah, blah, blah. I have a couple people that I can call that can give me a bit of a heads up that I don't have to filter out whatever the bullshit is trying to come through the TV.
Yeah. I had a long conversation recently with somebody about the same thing. Like, hey, like, why are these this way? And so I'm running them through, you know, a bunch of stuff for like national defense. And then I couched it with him, and I ended the conversation with him like this. I was like, and I don't know shit about budgets, deficits, economics. And this is just about trade and national defense and security.
Right.
So I just want you to understand, like, this is how deep we got. And I'm an idiot. And I only know
I know
this piece.
Tiny realm.
And then he was like, I never thought about it that way. And I was like, yeah. I was like, I tried to teach myself about some of the other stuff, and I go down that rabbit hole, and I'm like, no, thank you.
So what was your main job? So what have you been doing?
So what I have been doing is just bouncing around the intel world since I got out of the military. And so what that entails is everything from, I was an all source analyst is what they call it. And basically what that is you're a guy that takes all the intelligence products there are, and you are going to make it digestible to the average commander. So intelligence products, meaning like, so let's go like this. I'm going to take information, right?
Okay.
No matter what that is, whether that's all Matt's data for his company.
Okay, so data collection, cell phone messages, calls, logs, anything.
Right. And then
surveillance footage.
Yeah, and you're going to turn that into an intelligence product. So information turns into intelligence, which means that it has a polished assessment on it.
So being like, this is what you did.
Yeah,
or a person.
Oh yeah, so we'll turn it into a business thing, right? So I'll be like, Matt's average customer spends $68 if they're on the website for longer than 10 minutes.
Got it.
Right? So now we have a product now. And so then I'm going to take that product and I'm going to turn it into something where when I'm talking to you, the guy who's going to make decisions, this is going to help you make your decision.
Okay.
So that's what my job is. And then, or was. And then with that.
But instead of purchase strategy on a website, it's more national defense.
It's like national, but for the purposes of what I was doing is for Afghanistan at one point in time.
Okay.
Right. So I'm over there trying to advise commanders on what they should and shouldn't be doing. From
where people you think are or not are.
Yep. Where you think bad guys might be, this, stay away from here, go here, that kind of stuff.
Whoa.
And then I transitioned out of that into working with drones. I did that for a year. I liked it, but COVID hit.
So flying and doing...
No. So basically the strategist. So you're the guy that comes up with the plan that says, hey, this guy's going to fly here for 6 hours. He's going to look at this. We're going to do this. That's it. And you're putting together what's called an intelligence plan, but just,
tracking movement.
Yep, tracking movement. I'm going to know when everything's flying, when it's coming down, how long it's going to be up.
Okay.
Yeah. And then my last gig was basically as a glorified consultant for that, all of that entire
jobs.
world.
And so,
yeah.
Have you been doing it still? Are you still through military, or you've done it contract?
No, so contracting for the military, for DOD, right? So,
but you're not enlisted.
Nope, not enlisted. Okay. I'm a complete civilian in that sense. But so I worked for SOCOM for the last 4 years, just various aspects of them, and then. Like I said, now we'll see. Transitioning probably to still working for them, but CONUS or in the U.S.
Okay.
I think my days of deploying are done. We'll see. I haven't made a firm decision, but we're in the 90th percentile, that I'm not going back overseas. Yeah. It's just not worth it. And then with building Warpath, the more I'm here, the more I can promote, the better I can promote. It's one thing to do a podcast via Zoom.
It's tough.
From Iraq. I did several, but
of course.
But I mean,
they just never going to work the same as you being able to be you're now depending on someone else's world to promote yours instead of just building your net.
And I'm strictly using, Instagram. I don't have the ability when I'm there to to do anything else. I couldn't, if I wanted to, which is it's not in the cards right now, like to do a vlog. I couldn't do that.
No, you can't.
I couldn't do, you know what I mean? Here's me at the gym. Here's me in the place I can't show you.
Right.
Good night.
Right.
You know, like
it's not terribly exciting or introspective.
You know, exactly. So being here, being able to go see, you know, guys like you try and create these other pieces of content and finish the book and do all this other stuff has been, it's the move that I'm making.
Well, dude, I think it's great because there's lots of guys out there telling their story and telling how to figure that path out of the military. That people need help, man, and they need a lot of varieties of that story to figure out the one that hits them.
I think the biggest thing, man, is just, well, I wouldn't even call it the biggest thing. I say the two things I think the most about is like identity, and we talked about it. We talked about it in the past, but like between that and then just the fact of like, just start digging a hole, right, man, till you hit water, and then if you don't like it, fucking go dig another one.
That's it.
And then go but I think so often, man, we get sold this thing where you're supposed to be, when you get out of the military or when you get out of college or whatever it is, these are the things you're supposed to be.
For sure.
And
then feeling behind on it, right? Like
exactly.
not meeting your own expectation of what that timeline looks like. Because I can remember feeling like, fuck, I'm supposed to be married right now. I'm not even in a relationship.
Yeah.
Fuck, we should probably be starting kids. I remember having all of those feelings and anxieties.
Exactly. And for me, it's like trying to get guys to let go of that. It's like, hey man, like this is your station in life right now.
Dude, you're not behind, nor you're ahead. You're right where you're supposed to be.
Yeah. And I mean, hypothetically, right? What I'll do sometimes is let's play it out. Let's say you are behind. What does that mean?
Keep going. That's it.
That's it.
Like we can't, it's like, man, that's,
you know,
it's,
like,
the rearview mirror is not always real useful.
I purposely, for quite some time, refused to look in the rearview mirror because
it's dangerous driving technique, but I appreciate it.
Yeah. I mean, for that, you know, purpose, like I just didn't want to look back and continue to go like, oh, it was so cool then, or it was so awesome, or it was so anything. I was like, what's in front of me is way better, or should be, or I can create it that way.
Or you can create it that way, right? Like it's just a different chapter in the book. Like that's really how I look at it now, is that it seems pretty clear that I've got different chapters. I have this chapter of growing up and playing sports and kind of getting through high school. Then I have a chapter of like college to starting to work.
Yeah.
That was a very different version of me. Then I have the chapter that I spent in a real career with my ex-wife. Yeah. And all those are very different versions of me. I guess it's just weird if you decide to stay in one forever.
Yeah.
And then be mad that you did.
I think too, the other thing with service members, period, is like we have one of the few careers that has an expiration date from when you start.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because if you're a teacher and you can hold on to the end.
Yeah.
You know, same thing for a lot of jobs. You can.
And that was something I had Nick Kumalatzos on, and we talked about the Afghanistan bit. He was like, you know, it keeps getting said that these troops are pulled. These are people that signed up for work. They weren't civilians picked and deployed to Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. These are people working, still holding the fort down.
Yeah. Like
pretending like we did this big disservice of them doing their jobs isn't fair.
Yeah. I think there's
like, we need to bring our troops back. They're dying to get home. Like, yo, they're working.
Yeah. There's a lot of things I think that the way we've kind of written it have done a disservice to the entire thing. Right. I attended this seminar years ago. This guy wrote a book called On Killing. His name is Lieutenant Colonel Grossman. And so he came in and spoke to all of us at this, you know, for the unit or whatever. And so as he's talking about how the media portrays service members as being broken and PTSD and all this other stuff. And he says something to the effect of like, how much has that media portrayal led to people thinking that's what they're supposed to be?
Yeah, I do believe that. I do believe in what learned helplessness, I guess, would kind of what the equivalent of that is. Yeah. Is that if you're told long enough that you can't do, then maybe you can't.
And I can't help but think of so many ways in which we have kind of painted that out with the military. You know, But I mean, even if we take it a step further with military.
Well, I mean, think about how many guys, you know, hell, I know as a podcast host and with military friends that like there's an apprehension to like what subjects I want to bring up because I don't know what past trauma or any of this.
Yeah, I can understand that. I mean, for me, I guess because being in it, like I kind of know, I guess.
Of course you do.
And I
as a civilian, it's really tough for me to deal with that you've normalized some things I can't imagine.
Yeah. I never think of it until I'm in the situation.
Yeah.
You know, like
Right, like the little conversation we had before we went on the air.
Yeah.
Right, like something like that.
Yeah. It's like I remember being at my high school reunion, 10-year high school reunion, and I'm pretty tanked up. And I remember when my lady comes over and she's like, I'm going to take these. We're going to go over here and sit down. And I remember asking her like a couple of days later, like, what happened? She was like, you were telling stories that no one needs to hear.
Oh, no.
And I was like, was I really? And she was like, yeah. She's like, I've never heard you tell these stories. And I'm like, oops. Whoa, sorry.
Oh, no.
And I was like, all right, I guess I'm going to do that again.
Yeah, man, your needle's a bit different.
And I think
my needle's different. And I think that ends up why there's an attraction. It's a really lucky problem to have, right? But one of the reasons I like having friends who do whatever this weird thing of life is that I currently get to do for a living is because I don't ever have to be weird having conversations with them because they also do weird shit all the time.
Yeah.
So I'm terrible at a regular human dinner party.
No, I understand.
Because I've traveled and done all these things, and it makes me sound like I'm trying to be a cunt
impress
you, when in the fact that this is just what I've done.
So, oh man, so
I don't have the equivalent of your Thanksgiving story.
That's how I feel talking about sometimes. Like we're talking about food with a bunch of friends, and they're like, "Oh, you know, best pizza you ever had." And I'm just like, I'm going to sit in this corner and not say a fucking word.
Right. You don't know shit about pizza, motherfucker. You ain't traveled.
So,
what's pizza in Italy taste like? You don't know.
And I was just like, oh,
I do.
Man. Like, and that, so knowing that feeling, like I've had that feeling of like, I'm not going to say anything because I feel like it makes you sound pretentious sometimes.
Of course it does.
And you're like,
of course it makes you sound pretentious.
Yeah, you're like,
it fucking super sucks. Because, and what ends up becoming a problem with that is like, you feel like you can't share and be stoked on your stuff because you sound like a cunt.
Yeah.
And so I had to find other friends who have crazy shit they're doing. And like, yo, it's cool that we can just talk how fucking crazy it is that I got to go to Iceland with my chick and my fucking buddy.
Yeah.
And had someone pay for it and 20 people thought it was a good enough idea to go with us. Can I fucking normalize that conversation and not pretend that it's cool to me? It's fucking weird.
But I
love it and I'm super fucking grateful, but it's fucking weird.
It is, but I mean, at the same time, man, like, again, not just having friends that can do that kind of stuff, but just having people that also just think shit like that's awesome anyway.
Yeah. But like, you get a lot of the must be nice crowd.
Oh, man.
I'm like, yo, I'm not doing this to shit on your thing. Nor am I trying to tell you this story to say yours isn't cool or mine's better.
No.
I'm just trying to share, and it just so happens this is mine. Stories are weird.
I'm stoked about what I'm doing, and I'm trying to share it. That's it. And then I don't understand people who don't get that. They're like, well, it must be nice, or it must be this. And then again, though, it comes down to cost. Like, you can afford, and I don't mean money, you can afford a lot of these things if you choose to. No one told you to go do X.
Right. And it's one that I think about is, the choice for me not to have kids. As an experienced person.
Yeah.
Right. I'm very acutely aware that I am skipping out on one of the raddest experiences that you get to have as a person is being a father. I think it's huge. I think it's life-changing. I think it's perspective shifting. I think it is all of those things. I just like this more. But I'm aware that I've chose to opt out of a really important one.
So, side note, I don't know why people keep fucking asking you about it. I find it
crazy to me.
I find it to be the weirdest thing on the planet.
I do too.
As a guy with 4 kids, I'm like,
yeah, who gives a fuck
why does it matter?
Like, why does this matter? Like,
why does this matter to you so much?
When are you going to have kids? Yo, never.
Yeah, like, dude, like, I don't know, man. I get so stoked by watching people, like, again, just go after what they want. I'm like, hey, this dude doesn't want to have kids and he's having a fucking ball. Like, why is that what we're talking about?
Also, I also like not fitting in. I can't pretend that that's not part of the gimmick, right? Like, I love that I'm fucking weird.
Yeah. Man, that's been my entire existence. As it,
the more I've leaned into it, the better it's really gone.
100%.
Especially if it's, a lot of the lean into it has become self-awareness. And what comes with a lot of self-awareness is some confidence to do whatever the fuck it is I want to do and not apologize for it.
The more me I become, man.
The more me I become. Also, once you realize that no one gives a shit about what you're doing, no one really does.
Yeah.
It's really freeing.
Yeah.
Because if no one cares, then I'm not going to worry about what they think.
And I think also just too, it goes to, even if they do care, like, how little are you?
Hey man, like, it's when the caring has a cost to you, right? That like it's it's back to like social media bit that like, why are you watching or doing a thing that steals that takes negative energy from you? Why would you give it any attention? And so that's how I feel about what someone thinks of what I'm doing. I just don't give a shit.
Yeah. I wonder sometimes, is that just because like, and I guess it's like we talked about earlier, just in general, like, is your life just that bad? Or maybe you don't feel anywhere else?
I think...
like, if you don't feel anywhere else, anger is a pretty easy emotion.
For sure it is.
It's like complaining. Like, somebody said that complaining is the easiest form of communication on the planet. And I thought it was...
lazy.
I was like...
It's the laziest form of communication is complaining.
And so, I wonder... is that kind of what it is with people, why they do that? And the other thing, just another side note, I don't fucking get trolling. Maybe
I don't either.
Maybe.
Well, I get.
I mean, I get it.
So I get that you want attention. I get that.
Yeah.
And what we've taught people is we pay more attention to negative shit than we do positive shit.
Yeah. And
so if you want attention, you can say horrible, outlandish things, and they get more of an attention than the other. The fact that we have a term for it, and there isn't a term for whatever the opposite would be. Random people who are just pumped on stuff, like, fuck, go, girl. Yeah. Like, I don't know what the opposite of that would be, but we don't have it.
Yeah.
Like, there isn't even a term for it. And so because we've been able to see how much trolls get the attention, the media has done it. We respond more to things we don't like. Yeah. And that's what keeps getting thrown to people. Because it causes controversy and people fucking get irate and people pay attention.
That's still something that I think that will baffle me to the end of my days.
Like, it was a statistic I remember, like with Howard Stern, like when his radio show started, right? That people who like his show would listen for like 25 minutes.
Oh yeah.
People who hated his show listened to 50.
Yeah, it's like the Mayweather fights.
Yeah.
More people watch Mayweather to hope he was going to lose.
Right, and like, if that's the psychology of the type of species we are, why wouldn't everything play to it?
Yeah. No, I get that. For me personally, I look at it and I go like, man, there's so many better uses of my time.
For sure. Once you can break out of realizing that that's the habit pattern and what they're playing to, and realize that you are in control of your actual emotional state instead of letting the fucking TV get a vote.
Oh, yeah. The other thing is what I've been kind of like wondering about is like people that think they're funny. Because I think that's like sometimes where it comes from, right? Like you legitimately think you're funny, and so you do these things, looking for attention, looking for laughs. Sure. But I'm like, you're not a comedian. I think it's always these people that have gotten in trouble. Not that I'm championing cancel culture, but
I'm
like
definitely not.
But I think some of these people who have said some of these things, they thought maybe they were envisioning themselves on stage.
Yes, for sure, right? Now, I will admit, so I fall into context is everything.
Oh, 100%.
Right? So if a comedian says a joke that's highly offensive, to me, he was trying to tell a joke.
That's
Which
job
means
description.
That's the job description. He's trying to say a thing that catches me off guard. That either makes me laugh and gets a response or even a
Yeah.
He did it, but he's bad at it. And so it went too far.
Yeah.
You overshot it, my friend. But the intent wasn't what you turned it into. And so we still need to give a shit about intent and context of people and why they're saying what they're saying. And if this guy's trying to be a comedian and not inflammatory, or even fuck if he is inflammatory, who gives a shit? Now, with that said, you're allowed to not like the things they say and not listen to them. But to fucking petition them to not be able to get work, fuck you.
Yeah. I'm on it. I completely agree. I think for comedy specifically too, I'm like, that's a free pass as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah,
Same,
comedy's
man.
a weird one.
Yeah, I think I really do.
I cannot like the flavor of it. I cannot listen.
Yeah. I think that's a completely, free domain, and I think we need to keep it that way.
I think everything should be. I think you're allowed. I think there's consequences for things
for
you
sure.
say, right? There's consequences. And those consequences to me are, I don't like that guy on that show. I don't watch that show. That enough people who do that causes the problem.
Yeah.
So that's how you vote. Yep. Everyone gets an individual vote with every single one of their actions every day.
Yep. I agree. I can't say that I have any like or love for that whole movement. I can't say
once you've given in, once we have opened that door.
I think it's just like most movements though, where it always seems to get to a point, and instead of, stepping back or kind of reanalyzing, it's like, oh no, we'll just keep going further and further.
The thing is, it's easy to shit on cancel culture, right? But let's not be aware that this is what fucking figured out the Weinstein stuff coming to light.
Well, I think
that monster
yeah
needs to be fucking slain.
No, agreed. I think the other thing too, though, is it's not new. Well, this isn't new. We have a different level of attention and focus now.
Yeah, but also right now, as we have slayed an old world monster, which is what Harvey Weinstein is.
For sure.
Where else can we uproot these people?
Well, yeah,
and that's what people want to try to do.
See, that's the thing though, is like that's a great part of the movement, right? Like there's that great part of it, but then you go to a point where you're talking about a comedian that made a gay joke 15 years ago. Like,
right. Is Kevin Hart need to apologize for that again?
For the fourth time?
Come
on, man.
Every comedian was
watch
making
Eddie Murphy
gay
Raw.
jokes. Yeah. That's what I'm saying, is like every comedian was making gay jokes, but then you pull out this one because of whatever fucking vendetta you have against them.
Dude, holding our past selves accountable to today's rules is not okay. Like, you can have perspective and go like, oof.
Dude, we got better.
I think
I don't know.
I don't know what kind of past these people are holding on to, but my past isn't good enough for me to just be standing on some hill like, hey, you know what? You shouldn't have said that.
No way, man.
I'm over here just like, you know what?
I've fucked all kinds of things up.
I'm just trying to make it a little bit better today, man. That's it.
Man, I took pride in being a real asshole for a long time.
That's fun.
And like, fuck, what a bummer. I wasted a lot of time with that. What a fucking frivolous pursuit.
So I used to have this assessment. I would have to deal with people, right? And one of my favorite questions to ask them is like, what would people who don't like you have to say about you? The amount of people who think they're assholes is staggering to me.
Fair. That's
good.
good.
That want to be assholes.
Want to be.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's one of those tropes from like movies.
But I also think it's
right. Like
I think as you're trying, I don't know, as you want to be different, as you want to be alpha. Fuck, I hate these terms.
Me too.
I hate it so fucking
I'm so glad
much.
you said it before I did.
But as you're wanting to do that, like as a young man, like
that's how it comes out.
It does.
Yeah.
And it is so phony. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, like, young you can't listen to 40-year-old. You don't get this swag at 18. That ain't how it works. You haven't been through the fucking fire.
I think, man,
it's just pretending at 18 that you have.
that's the thing. Oh man, like dealing with like mentorship programs and stuff like that, like talking to young dudes, man, it's like, and it's funny, I'm even saying this, like young dudes, like I don't feel old at all, right?
No way, dude. I can't believe I get to do any of the things I'm allowed to do. I should have to ask for adult supervision all the time.
And so, but trying to get them like, hey man, if you can just listen and figure this out now, I'm telling you, like, it'll be so much cooler.
Oh man, there's a couple big ones.
Yeah.
You don't have to do shit. Like that one, like you don't have to go to college.
Yeah.
You don't have to go do any of these things. Like figuring that one out early is a big one.
I wrote a post recently, and I'm meant to turn it into like a real blog about things I should have told my 30-year-old self. And that was stuff like that, man. Like one of the other big ones for me as a dad, but just in general too, like, is stop trying to be that fucking cool. Like,
right?
Like, you end up just being cooler, just fucking not trying.
Yeah.
You know, because I was a young dad. I was a dad at 16, 17, right? And so I apologize to my oldest daughter sometimes. I'm like, I'm sorry I wasn't, you know, it's just too cool to do the thing. I was an active dad, so it wasn't like any of that. But like, if she had came up and been like, let's play this game or be silly, or it was too cool, too fucking cool. Right. Whereas now, like, dude, there's a picture of me in full regalia. I got a fucking boa on. I got a
course, dude.
Crown. I'm drinking tea.
Man, I fucking echo that 100%. I had a lot of years where I would have been too cool to
and
be completely weird.
You know, and it's just like that kind of thing is more what I root myself in now. It's just like, I'm trying to have a good time. I'm trying to be here, experience it. I'm going to say yes. And man, like what more could I ask for? You know, I'm going to show up and do the thing. What's the thing today? The thing today is I'm going shark diving. Sweet.
Shark diving. Right. Or is it teacup party?
And I do both, man. And so, you know, I'm going to keep trying to do both as long as I fucking can.
Yeah. But I think that's ideal, right? Like and that's the biggest reason now that like I have a big push as far as the physical stuff goes.
Yeah.
Because it's really challenging. Like I can't train in any of the ways I like to train.
Yeah.
My body just feels like shit.
I get that. I don't personally know it yet.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can only do the stuff that I do for so long before your body rebels.
And man, it's been a real challenge to stay in it and not able to train in a way that I like to train. So it's been a really, really tough development of discipline.
Yeah.
Do I walk the walk of I believe this physical fitness is important no matter what level of it you can actually get done? Mm. Or is it only if it fits to me doing what I like? And I need the discipline to know that I do fucking believe the other, and I'll fight for it.
I think too, like there's enough things out here that'll cost you enough to make you believe, right? So I just did I didn't know it was a thing. I did a 14er.
Oh right? Yeah, so, 14,000 foot hike.
Yeah, and one, I didn't know that was a thing. I just
Were you in Denver? Or?
Yeah, I was in Denver, and I woke up and I was like, I can't be in Denver and not do something. And I was like, so I'll go on a hike, and so I started looking for hikes, and I'm really just looking for a dope view.
So you just accidentally stumbled on one.
I was looking for a completely different hike. I saw somebody's Instagram, they had a hike on it, and I was like, I'm find that one. And I couldn't find it because they were off the beaten path. Okay. So I was just like, all right, well, this is close enough. So we'll start here and maybe we'll just stumble upon it. And I show up and the lady's at the little board and she's like, well, have you done a 14er before? And I was like, what the fuck's a 14er?
I don't think so.
And she's like, that's 14,000 feet. And I was like, all right, sweet. I'll do it. I haven't been at 14,000 feet in probably like 15 years, 10 years, like when I first got to Afghanistan, if it was that high. I got like three 20-ounce bottles of water. I'm 245 pounds. And I'm just like, well, you know, we'll see how it goes.
We'll see how
it goes. So I get up, I do the hike. It was dope. It was awesome. Also, I'm not in that kind of shape anymore. And I did not have nearly enough water. But it was one of those realizations again, like it cost me so much where I was like, oh, when I'm done with this phase of training I'm at right now, I've got to get back to capable.
Yeah.
It's one thing to look cool. Like this does nothing though. Like
no, this is always built to make me better for things out there.
Yeah. So that's how I've always done it until this year. Like I said, this year was all about just like looking good.
Yeah.
This is not a functional machine. It can walk for 45 minutes. It can bench press and a few other things.
Yeah.
That's it. Like you're asking me like, I haven't rolled in forever. I normally do jiu-jitsu a lot, and I'm just like, there's no functionality in my.
No, you just don't have any engine.
Yeah, my machine is not that right now. But, I don't mind it. But just saying that in the sense of like, well, I know you're going to be having all these experiences and you're going to try and do these things. I think as they come up, they become daunting enough where it's like, well, I'll do the thing in order to have the power. Right?
Yeah. That's it, man. It's options.
Yeah.
Me being fit allows me to be able to confidently say like, fuck yeah, I'll go on a rafting trip in Africa.
Yeah.
I get to say yes to more things.
That's always my fear. Right. I had to turn
missing out because I'm not healthy enough.
Dude, I had it happen one time. It was when I was trying to chase that 1800 down, right? Powerlifting. And so I'm not in shape. I'm just strong.
Yep.
Just strong, not in shape.
I'm familiar.
And the guys in Norway, and they're like, hey, like if you come right now, we're going to snowshoe.
Dude, you'd die.
And
you would die.
And he knew. He's like, hey, are you still doing all that stuff? And I was like, yeah. He's like, are you in shape? And I was like, no. He's like, don't come.
No, you'll die.
And I was like, oh.
Yeah, it's a bummer, man.
Like, oh, God.
Look, and I had to do it for a long time. I said no to a lot of things because I was big for throwing.
Yeah.
And so like I was good at a thing.
Yeah.
And I want to do all the other things now.
Yeah. And so even for me, I'm a little dude naturally. Like before I started lifting weights, before I joined the military, I was like 167.
What? Come on, you graduated high school like weighing 160?
Yeah, 167, man. I'll show
That's
you
what I was going into from 8th grade into high school.
I'll
I was
show you a
170.
picture. It's terrifying.
Put on 100 pounds in 4 years.
I couldn't even fathom it. Could not even fathom it. And then I didn't know anything about nutrition. So then this was my nutrition trying to get big in high school, right? It's like 2 packs of ramen, add rice.
Jesus Christ. 2 packs of ramen, add rice. All carbs. This should go great. Carbs, sodium.
That's it, man. I mean, yeah, I'm eating meat or whatever, but it's nowhere near the size of
it's
the carb.
Just calories.
Yeah, it's just calories. And I'm like 167 and I just all
fire.
Yeah.
Well, you're just pouring gas constantly on this fire. You're essentially doing a bodybuilder diet, just like low fat, all carbohydrate.
And so I get to the Army and got in trouble. Guy's like, hey, if you don't find a hobby, you're going to find yourself back home. And I was like, oh, well, what's a hobby? I'm fucking 18, dude. What do you want me to do? I'm drinking beer and chasing girls right now. Like, what do you want? And he's like, maybe lift weights, work out. And I was like, I don't do that. So
there you go.
100 pounds later, I can't go snowshoeing because I'm now 270 pounds and completely out of shape.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I understand, man.
Yeah, but man, look, there's as you're going through life and you're figuring out like all the other cool metrics your body's capable of, how fucking far it gets to run, any of these type of things. Yeah, I'm interested to know how fucking strong it could be. And I have that metric now.
Yeah. It's funny you say it. So I was trying to put together a post or just a thought the other day because I was thinking about when you buy a car and you get the stat sheet.
Yeah.
The specs,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I was like, what does my spec sheet as a human look like?
Yeah, all the metrics.
Yeah. I was like, this is as heavy as I've ever been. This is how strong this far, And I was thinking about that hardcore, like.
Yeah. So I was telling Dan Holguin after he did his run in Arizona, when we went out and helped him on his ultra, and he ended up like 72 and change miles. I'm like, you're a distance runner, and you found out a metric of how far you can run.
Yeah.
That's cool. I don't know. I haven't run a distance till failure.
Yeah.
I don't know what that number is.
Yeah,
it's probably way fucking less than 72. I can tell you that.
I don't think 72 is in it for
but
me
like,
either.
I'm like, yo, that like, don't be bummed. Like you set an expectation, which was to do the 100.
Yeah.
But the intention was to run as far as you can.
And you did.
You did. What else?
Yeah. I mean, I get it. I get being bummed, but at the same time, man, you're not one of these people who are showing up and you're like, well, I didn't train, so, which is a pet peeve.
Right.
They fucking like.
I hate the failure avoidance thing of like, yeah, well, I didn't try, so it took 5th. I mean, I didn't really train for it. Like, go get fucked.
Everything. That is one of my biggest pet peeves in everything you can encounter in life.
Yeah, then why did you bother?
Like, well, I didn't really want to be. I just. Oh,
You're not cool showing off your half-ass effort. It's fucking disrespectful to everyone in the room.
What's funny is I think though it kind of has started to come off as like what people think is cool or think.
I'm
is
sure.
Yeah, and that's what for me is like. So like one of the things that I was telling you, the axe, right? So we're doing these things, and I don't know if we're going to be able to sell them or not. But in the military we have challenge coins, right?
Yeah.
Right. So we're going to make a wooden coin. It's called a give a fuck coin. Because my thing is like you always have to have at least one fuck.
Yeah.
Like I'm really tired of dealing with people who are like, oh, no fucks. I'm like, yeah, you do. And if you don't, you should, and you should make sure you place it in the right thing. So we're going to make this wooden coin. And we're making it. It's already should be done hopefully in the next week or two. And I want to give them out to guys and maybe be able to sell them because I was like, you should always have at least one fuck. So for those days that you don't think you have any, you can reach in your pocket and be like, oh,
got one.
I got one.
That's it, man. I dig that, dude. So I love having like a token or a thing in the pocket. You're trying to put your something to center.
Yeah, man, that's a thought I haven't had in a long time. Used to think about it quite often as like an anchoring point.
Yeah.
Like always being able to have something that can anchor you and tie you down to whatever it is, whether it's your goal or a thing you're chasing or to not get too far off base from being,
for sure,
your ego or whatever it might be. So
yeah, something to always be able to grab a hold of and just like things are good.
That's what we just did this.
I use a memory.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's definitely a memory.
Yeah.
It's definitely a memory. I keep a couple phrases on deck that I.
Yeah. I've there's a couple that are just like rough days when pain was really bad, and a couple moments that because pain got as bad as it did, it really burns in.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a couple days like that it's like you said that if you ever got out that you'd go.
Yeah,
we're going. So don't tell me you're tired now. This is why we go.
Dude, that like I hear stuff like that and I don't want it to sound cliche or fucked up or whatever, but I get chills because I'm like, that's the moment for me. I look back, I think about it and I go, ooh, like we don't really get an option.
No, man.
This is not an option for me to fuck off. Right. And if I do fuck off, I want to fuck off because it's like, I'm going to have a good time with you tonight. Or like, I'm going to be here and I'm going to be with my kids and I'm going to lock in on this. And there are times I catch myself and I'm like, oh man, you're doing it. You're in Instagram, just scrolling for the sake of scrolling. Or
Bonnie and I call each other on.
Yeah. And so it's one of those things where I try to get better at, but it means so much. Like, man, you just got to keep feeding the fire and getting after whatever it is, for you. For me right now, it's building a business and trying to build a life.
Same.
A whole
That's
new
exactly
life.
the same.
Yeah.
I don't imagine that's going to shift anytime soon. So,
I mean,
because then I just start another business.
So as I get deeper into this, that's what I'm starting to realize.
Yeah. Congratulations. It's never going to get simpler and it's never going to get easier. So that's what you're in for.
Yeah.
Be stoked that that's what's coming.
I am. I'm stoked for everything, man. And like you said, like, I'm saying yes. So hopefully there's some other opportunities for some things that are coming up, and I'm just going to keep saying yes.
Right. To say yes. And for me, like there's that own realization of your own personality, right? That not trying to fix a thing anymore, but like, this is who I am.
Oh,
and I know it, right? And so one of those things is, I like chaos.
Yeah.
I like knowing that I have very, very important things for me in my world, right? Like this has to be done by this date. Like we have to figure this out.
Yeah.
We have to figure this out. And I need them to be different every week. And I've somehow built a world and a job that runs that way.
It's just part of knowing your own shit, man.
And
not running from it.
I have plenty of days where I'm annoyed by it.
Yeah.
Right. But that at some point I have to go like, you made this.
Yeah.
So stop pretending you don't like it.
Yeah.
Because if so, you can change this system. And I could, but I don't like it.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, would you really want it any other way?
No. And I fucking love it, man. I love getting to do all of it. I love I just love the how different it is every week, that I'm always slightly uncomfortable with what we're doing.
So what would be, assuming we look at it like you have levels, what will be the next level for you?
The next level is just scale.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's being able to scale up more. So that it's, right now, big stuff for me is I need to, the next 12 months will be pretty exciting because I will figure out a lot about how property run, how the Airbnb thing works. And then from there, I bet I could add 2 a year. Mm. But it'll take me a full year
to get it down.
To feel like, oh, I got this.
Okay.
And then especially how I got it in St. Louis, because I'm aware of what I need to do. Like I have to have a team. I have a team that will have to manage this thing, other than using a management company because they're too expensive. Mm. And so I need a handyman, a lawn person, and house cleaner. Mm. And those people need to be on point with running it. And so I know that I can deal with them all personally, but that's not scalable. So I need to already start figuring out how to put into place systems that automatically text them when a booking's made, when it's time to have a house cleaner come, the yard needs to be cut every week. Like I need to know all these things happen without me having to monitor it. Yeah. Because then it cuts into my hours.
Just comes in.
Right. I need to know that me taking care of one property is essentially the same as me taking care of 50.
I get that.
And so if I can't build the bit, so that's what I'll figure out in the first year. So I'm really excited about that and moving into that challenge. That'll be Airbnbs and property management and figuring that out. So I think that side of business is bigger. I think the side that we're running Habit, I hope Habit in that time feels like where Hate is now. Mm-hmm. And so I hope I have a dedicated team that wants to make this content and promote this coffee and grow it and provide more items to sell and do that. And then I hope Hate by that point is much bigger. Yeah. And everything. And we're really doing more creative work, that we're getting to do video content we want to make and do longer films like Fragile. And we get to put out apparel that we want that's ours. Like everything is bigger. Yeah. I'm also aware of a few things with my personality. One of which is I have about a 10-year time span for giving a shit. I'm going into year 8 with Hate. Yeah. I don't feel at any point like I've lost any steam whatsoever with it. I've never had a thought about that, but I need to be aware that historically I have 10 years to give a fuck. And me being at least aware of that gives me some room to say, we should probably start looking into real estate. Yeah. We should probably start doing this. We should probably start thinking about these ideas. Yeah. Because then that gives some freedom to, I'm not trapped again.
I get that. What about personally?
Personally, man, I'd like to keep working on me. I'm happy relationship-wise, happy with where I'm at. I'm happy, really, really happy. The stuff I want to fix it's a lot of the autopilot features. The stuff that I know that causes me anxiety, causes me stress, and then causes me to be shitty. Like once I'm overpowered by it, and then I end up lashing out, and I'm shitty, and I'm tough to deal with. 10 minutes afterwards, I've usually sorted it out, and I'm trying to apologize for being unnecessarily shitty for a thing that I realized nothing that I got stressed out about was the problem. Yeah. It was X, Y, and Z. What I would like to do is figure out how to skip those first 3 fucking steps to get me to the last one. Yeah. And just rush through those and be able to say, like, we're here. Yeah. I know how the story ends, so why am I going to bother with these 3 parts?
I know that feeling.
Right? But it's hardwired stuff.
100%. Yeah.
It took me a long time to snap out of the hardwired bit of if something was a challenge or a stress, immediately saying no. Like, fuck that, freaking out. But then I can rationalize. Yeah. But the first response was always freak out.
Yeah. See, I that's not my first response. My thing and my issue is definitely trying to skip being the shitty person. But then mine is more, I'm a pit bull. When I get on a problem or a thing or an issue, like, I'm sorry.
And it's tough in a relationship.
Yeah. And so it's more... I've gotten really good about what it's about. I've gotten really good about making sure it's justified, but what I haven't got good about is making sure I say it and I'm out.
Yeah.
Whereas for me, it's like I'm on this leash or this thing, and I'm gonna ride it out until everybody understands. Like,
that's tough, dude.
Yeah,
it's a tough one, especially. It can just be really time consuming.
It can be time consuming, and then for me, it's just like I don't have very many buttons. I don't have very many issues. So it's like when you have that one.
Yeah, you're real hard on it.
Yeah, you don't tap the button.
Yeah, like
mash it down.
I don't do scarcity.
Yeah, and so
scarcity in people is one of those that like, fuck, I'll freak out.
That's like for my my inner core friends, like the difference between being fearful and afraid. Mm-hmm. Right, like I'm okay with fear. Everybody's fearful. Everybody has those issues, right? But if you're afraid, just genuinely afraid of stuff, I have a hard time. It's one of the things with my kids that I have to like really like work on when they're afraid of something. Because I'm like, this deep down fear, like my daughter does not like flying bugs at all. It's a
no kids do.
Yeah, it's a
the
real.
The kid that does is the one you should be stressed out about.
Like, you're weird.
Yeah, like, to the point where it's not fear, it's afraid.
Right.
She's afraid of these things, and I have such a hard time with when people are afraid of things because I'm just like,
that's a choice.
Yeah, I'm just like, we don't have to do this.
We can logically work our way through this. Look how big you are compared to that thing.
And it's just,
no one's ever been damaged by that thing. There's no evidence to support this at all.
Oh man. And so, we're to a point now where she's not like that, but it's just something I recognized in myself and that I'm still trying to work through when I deal with people. Cause it's like, we hit that thing and I'm like, listen, either move or like, don't be here. Right. At all. Right. I don't, I'm pretty calm about most things. But we hit those ones and I'm just like.
You got to have a line, dude.
Yeah.
There's some hard no's, right? Non-negotiables that you should have in your life. I think a lot of those too that you should hold close are the ones that help you function the best.
Yeah.
For me, like I need travel, I need training, and I typically need to fuck. And I like smoking weed. I could probably deal without smoking as much weed, but the other three are pretty non-negotiable.
Yeah, I would say all three of those are high on my list as well, man. Like you can't. Yeah, those people.
Yep, I don't do well with any of those three being withheld for any amount of time.
I know how shitty I get when I don't do any of it, and I have any of those in my life. So.
Yeah, not withheld. Withheld's not the right word. But whenever, I'm not interested in those three, I'm also concerned.
I've never had a time where I haven't been.
Right. And this has been pretty consistent for me since I was aware they existed.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like cookies and boobs. I've been a fan forever.
Why would I not be?
They're all the way through. I've changed a lot of styles of dress and music throughout the time. Cookies and boobs have been here
pretty consistent.
Since trying to explain this to people all the time. Like they're gonna be awesome forever.
Yeah, forever.
I have a female friend. She's on Instagram. She of course gets like a lot of girls, a lot of DMs from a lot of dudes, just random. And we were talking about it. I was like, here's the thing. A guy can get a nude picture or a video, and it's never going to ruin his day.
Never. It's never a bother.
I was like, it might not be what he wants.
It might
care.
Not be. It's never a threat.
But it's never like, oh my God. Whereas
not again.
Yeah, not again. Yeah. It can even be like, whoa, that's not cool. But
woof.
Yeah.
I responded to a lady one time who just sent me this pussy picture, and I was like, hey, don't do that. I was like, that's super aggressive.
I got a video once of a girl just working it out with a gun.
Man. The equivalent to this is so not acceptable.
So just no good morning, no nothing. Just up going, and not even like a warm up. It's just full blast. Anyway, so
she's looking for a watch.
And so, but I'm telling her, I'm like, there's never going to be a time where I receive any of these things and I'm just going to be like, my entire day is ruined.
No, never.
Whereas like, I know when she gets it, it's like, that's just.
There's a difference in being the bigger and stronger of the two things that adds with the sexual aggression.
Man, I mean, so I have two girls. Okay. One's 22, the other one's 8, right? Or 9, excuse me. And talking to my 22-year-old about, or realizing like the difference in fears that she has as a girl versus what I had as a teenage
man.
boy,
I'm really
young
sad
adult.
at how long it took me to figure that out.
Oh, me too, man. That's what I'm saying. Like when I realized it, I was like, oh. And then I heard, I think it was on Rogan. He verbalized it pretty well. He was like, might not have been wrong. I don't know. He was like, it was like, boys are worried about getting laughed at. Women are worried about getting killed. Yeah. And I was like, fuck.
That's a stark contrast.
Right. But it's true. Like, right. When you see it, most of these dudes who fly off the handle can be kind of summed up in that realm. Right. They are laughed at, made fun of.
Well, yeah. That. What's that called? What are they calling those guys?
Who?
Incels.
Oh man, got you.
Fascinating.
So I
don't understand why prostitution's not legal. Seems like a pretty simple.
The oldest profession.
Oh, God.
Right.
Well, I mean, it's not like it doesn't exist.
We act like we're not like a sex-driven culture, but everyone hides it.
I mean,
yet
it's weird.
Porn seems to be doing just fine as a business,
dude. I don't even want to know the Pornhub numbers.
It's amazing to me what we're allowed, that we're totally comfortable knowing that everyone consumes in private, but to pretend that that's everyone.
Like it's not a big, like, well, no one does this.
Fucking Christ.
But then you look at the stats and you're like, well,
everyone.
Dude,
there might be one of
dude.
you. Yeah.
It's every dude.
Yeah. Not just the dudes, but so check this out. You remember when Blu-ray and HD discs, do you know this story?
Oh, yeah.
That's the one I continue to tell people.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal. I'm like,
go ahead.
So Blu-ray and HD, two formats for after DVD, and they don't know which one is gonna be the industry standard. And so, what decides the industry standard is when the porn industry decided that they were gonna go with Blu-ray, and literally the next day.
Well, and the other
folded.
half of that, the other half of that was that PlayStation, had put Blu-ray players, in their machines.
Yeah.
And the
you took gaming and porn.
Yep. Next day, HD disc was gone. I'll never forget that.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about that in, I think, one of my animation courses in college, how the reason that the internet or whatever was made was porn. Like there's all this stuff was started because that's been the reason that things start and go the way they do because of the porn industry.
Yeah. I mean, don't think that
become the standard.
Whoever developed the way YouTube's algorithm for finding videos and the format of the channels and everything, look, it's built exactly the same.
Dude, it looks,
Whereas porn did this and had developed their own players because they couldn't use the big ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
fucking, they started doing the goddamn 3-second previews or whatever. Guess what happens on fucking YouTube the next goddamn week? 3-second previews on all the videos.
Is there any way, can we switch just to go hard? Like for any time we need to load videos on the website, we use the YouPorn, or whatever. We use their player instead of the YouTube.
That's it.
Just for support.
I
support the arts.
Man, I'm not mad at them.
No, man.
Man,
I think it should be way more normalized.
I had a dude that used to live next door to me, and the only thing he watched was porn.
That's it.
This was a little awkward. Yeah, I'm talking 20. So then when he wasn't watching porn, the only thing he would watch, he had 3 DVDs. I can't remember one of them, but the other 2 were Wyatt Earp and Stigmata.
Oh, man.
And I was like, bro, this is the most awkward combination of, because you walk into his room or whatever, you go to talk to him.
It's one of those 3 things at all times.
At all times. And he's just hanging out.
Wyatt Earp with Kevin Costner?
Yeah.
God, it's even the worst version.
That's what it's not even Tombstone.
No, Tombstone was a way better version. You're a Wyatt Earp guy? Hit the fucking bricks, dude.
I was like, hey, man, you walk in and you're like, hey, man, can I borrow an iron or some shit?
No.
And it's just porn playing. Oh, man. Come back 30 minutes later. It's another one playing. And you gotta remember, this is not when internet is fast.
Man, I realize the porn addiction's a thing that's coming up more and more, and I'm seeing more about it. I've had to wonder myself on this, where's that fucking line?
Where's the line? Yeah.
Because I have watched, I watch more porn than I think most people do.
I don't know, man.
I've worked from home for a long time. I've never had restrictions during the day of what I can look at.
The reason why I'll say that,
ever,
and maybe my view is skewed because, again, being a soldier, right? You're gonna go 6 months without.
No, sure.
But by saying that, you're also using as much porn as possible. Not
Right.
everybody,
but you also would have like 8-hour stretches of the day where you couldn't watch it
yeah, I don't know, like
because you were doing a job. I haven't.
There's some guys that are pretty creative.
I'm sure. Look,
pretty gross.
I get it, right?
No.
But as far as addiction goes,
I mean, they say that's the line, right? For addiction is like when it starts interfering with your normal stuff.
and that's the thing I've never had.
Yeah.
I've never skipped out on doing a thing because I wanted to watch porn.
Yeah, no, that's never happened.
That is.
I did not go to high school sometimes because I wanted to stay home and watch porn.
I mean, nobody.
I feel like that's different though, because
No.
I had a stomach ache.
You had fucking. You had to watch them on VHS tapes or whatever.
God, we're on VHS tapes.
No one
Kids have no idea how great.
Oh my god.
You know, watching some shitty JPEG load,
Squiggly lines.
kink, and then realize you didn't pick a good one because the thumbnails are actually
Or
the tiniest, most pixelated thing ever.
LimeWire.
Yeah, I was downloaded a ton of porn on LimeWire. Yeah, man. I found all types of weird shit there.
Man, that was
That was like back when the 2 Girls 1 Cup thing came through.
so terrible.
Terrible. Not ideal.
That's one of those things, man, that's just like my life would have been fine. I never encountered.
You know what it does, right? Knowing that exists. It simply kind of meant for me that if there was ever a thing I really wanted to see, it's out there.
Oh yeah, I mean,
And if I can't find it, I'm being lazy.
yeah, that's definitely the realization.
Like, okay, so everything's out there.
Yeah,
We have that now. There's not more things out there than there was, like there's not like more things left out than there was when we saw that video. It's already been like fucking 20 years
20
since
years probably.
2 Girls 1 Cup came out.
I deployed for the first time in 02, so I probably heard about it around 04.
Yeah.
So we're
Just
talking
using that as the marker, the timeline now.
Yeah.
It's the landmark.
for everything. For
The
every
2G1C.
everything for
era.
me is like
Era.
that.
This is 12.
Yeah.
That.
That is one of those things though, man. Like, just that was when I was like, oh, this internet thing is just everything.
Yeah. We're not going to be able to put this cat back in the bag, they say.
Oof.
Man, what do you think about Elon Musk building robots now?
I mean, man, I just hope we don't. I think this is a popular sentiment, but I just hope we don't make the guy mad. Turn him into a villain, right? Like, I mean, if there ever was somebody with the potential to become a supervillain, a one singular person entity that's not a country or a whatever, that's it.
I think so too. I really like the guy a lot.
Me too.
So if he's gonna, he started showing off these robots that'll be able to do like bullshit jobs, right? Which a lot of people have.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about that, right? This is going to create a problem where we have more people than we have useful jobs for people to have. And then we can't continue to be like, minimum wage jobs need to be paid fucking $50 an hour. Well, they're not.
Yeah.
They're not useful jobs. So do we fix this with either supplemental income, like with a universal basic income, which I do think is a fascinating idea.
Yeah.
That if you want people to be more innovative and things like that, and we're not going to have minimum wage jobs because they've been filled by AI, then there needs to be something. Since we're making more money, there needs to be money that goes back to the people at the starting blocks.
I mean, we already saw a little bit of it.
We also need a lot less people. That's the other side of it that's not great to mention, because then we don't need just manual labor jobs that we can't replace people with robots anymore. As soon as those people are replaced, we can't pretend that all the people who are doing janitor work were going to be surgeons.
Yeah. I mean, the less people one is difficult for me because I went down a rabbit hole on like demographics a while ago. And they actually say, not necessarily whole population, but more like races. A lot of races are done for. Like that's what they say. Demographers by they. Demographers. Say
So like with more AI.
Yeah. Well, no. No, just in general. Like people aren't having as many babies. So like, and so we'll take another country, for example. So like in Malaysia, they're paying people like, I think it's 2,000 for your first kid, 4, 6, 8, 12. And then I think it's like, if you're like at 5, they start doubling it.
Are we seeing population decrease that much everywhere?
In a lot of countries, not everywhere, a lot of countries. So like Japan, Italy.
I know Japan.
Yeah, Japan, Italy, Malaysia, the U.S., specifically wasps in the like Southeast. Shit like that. So yeah, I think about it and I hear people talking about it and I'm just like, oh, like how does this really work out in the end? Does it balance out or, you know, whatever?
I don't know if it's a tricky one, right? Because we have seen populations say, as a whole, population hasn't decreased, but the household population has. Like we went from having 10 kids down to 2.
Yep.
Because we don't have a farm to run that needs a bunch of shit done. So we don't have all these extra mouths to feed, which allows us to live a better quality of life for the people that are here.
Life expectancies up.
So why wouldn't that continue trending that way?
Yeah.
To where people have less kids.
I mean, that's the thing in the U.S., right? Is everybody's having less kids because of cost of living and everything else, you know?
Yet, look, the cost of living thing's true.
Yeah.
But also, we all live the most comfortable time in
100%.
like what we consider poverty is a stretch compared to other places.
You know, they say like this is worldwide.
We have fat homeless people.
Yeah, worldwide though, poverty levels have there's not as many poor people as there were previously.
Sure.
This is the richest time in history, the most educated time in history. Although that's the one stat that is going down, especially in the U.S.
What, educated?
Yeah, education. Yeah, the education level in the U.S. is
that's not something we're interested in or value.
Because it's actually funny because like the Joint Chiefs, it's been a couple of years now, but it was a national security concern, I think, or something like that a few years ago because they won't be able to field a standing army based on education level and physical fitness.
Which is true.
So
now,
but anyways,
is China waiting it out?
Man,
like it's another thing worth thinking about like that. I'm not giant in conspiracy theory or any of those type of things. However, up until America's been here for 200 years and really kicking ass since we really showed up. We've done well. Every empire loses their time in the sun.
For sure. Here's a funny one with that. Not China, but in terms of like extremists, specifically is Islam, right? Muslim extremists was a thought about breeding everyone else out as a strategy. Because everybody else is not having kids or slowing down. And there was a thought that that's what they're going to do. They're just going to continue to have more, and we'll win this way.
It's an interesting strategy.
And if you look at parts of Europe.
Oh, you're seeing it. Yeah, you're absolutely seeing it. Like there's a lot of that. That was something that I kept hearing in the UK, like whenever I would travel over to Scotland and stuff in the summer, like with a lot of the racism felt very clear to me toward Muslim Middle Eastern.
Yeah.
And because I guess we just weren't dealing with it. All the racism that I grew up with in the South was fucking black and white.
Yeah.
And so having this other thing that everybody was like, yo, fuck these people.
Yeah.
I felt shit about it. But man, I understand. I don't know. It's a fucking complicated issue. I don't care for the invisible guy in the sky being the fucking separator in people.
I mean, you know, how many wars, issues, things have we fought that are all based on somebody's, you know, invisible guy in the sky or, you know, money via that guy.
Money via that guy.
You know, because a lot of it, I mean, that's what it is. But, you know, I think that's, you know, going back to the whole population thing, we start talking about population and like universal basic income and like, what do we do? I mean, I think about Detroit a lot. So I have family that's from Detroit, right? And I think that was like one of the last places where you could not necessarily have a college degree, raise a family on a decent income as one of those factory workers.
Right.
Right. And then we saw that kind of go away. And what happened there?
Yeah, it fucking collapsed.
Yeah. And so when we start talking about like more automation, I'm like, well, how does it work if it's not with a universal basic income or something?
I don't understand. I don't understand how you would have one without the other, without a lot less people.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I don't think we're going with a lot less people no matter what. You know, because
that one's going to be pretty tough.
You know, like, yeah, so I don't get it.
Because I believe the automation thing is coming.
Oh yeah. I
mean,
mean,
there's no way to slow that tide down. That's coming.
Not just the robots, right? One of the biggest industries in the U.S. is trucking. the Tesla 18-wheeler.
Yeah.
Self-driving 18-wheeler. Like if that thing.
We're going to see. It's going to be interesting. Like the all of the automated cars, because at some point it's going to be safer than us operating.
Oh, for sure.
You can't take much. Which also, we have way less wrecks than we should. It should be a fucking disaster every time you go outside. With as little as I think about people, it's fucking incredible to me that they don't run cars into more shit.
I'm always shocked after I come back from a different country where they have like no driving laws.
No rules whatsoever.
And it's just like, I'm like, how does this function? How?
They've never agreed that like that left will go this way and you guys over here go the other.
It's insane to me. And
bigger vehicle wins. Is that typically?
So, I mean, like some of the countries I've been, there's just no rules. So it's just kind of like, speed. Everything is speed. At least that's what it feels like. So the place where I'm interested the most of all things when I go is Southeast Asia. I'm more interested in their traffic because I see these, these scooters and cars mingling and it feels like nothing is off limits, but I'm always fascinated by that because I come back home and I'm like, oh wait, there's rules.
Yeah, I really want to do like a Southeast Asian motorcycle trip.
That's what my plan is. My plan is to do 8 days in Vietnam.
When?
I was thinking about it next year. So this year I was trying to go to Bali and that didn't work out because of the whole restriction. Let's do it.
Yeah, I'd so be into that.
Because
also, if I have to go with someone, you're an awesome person to go with. I feel super good about things.
So yeah, that's a big one, right? My talking about trips. My big ones right now are Southeast Asia, specifically Vietnam.
Yeah, and if you want someone to go and I don't have to plan any part of it, I'm super fucking in,
dude. We'll talk after this.
Okay.
I got an idea. I got a pretty good idea. I think you might like. And then Peru to go. Well, if all the stuff happens right with work, to go see the who is it down there? Aubrey's people.
Yeah. Go for the Aya journey.
Yeah,
right on.
There's some other ones, man. I got a couple other like big trips. I'm really interested.
Aya one will be a good one.
And yeah, that's a big one for me. Where else? And we talked about it, Africa. I mean Africa as a whole because I don't know where to start.
I know that I have zero interest in returning to Dubai, and I'm very excited to go back to Zimbabwe and Africa and like Victoria Falls. Like I did not get to explore enough. The wildlife there is so obnoxious.
Yeah.
That it like I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I really liked it.
Yeah.
Like I like seeing hippos and elephants outside my fucking room and like driving around town in Victoria Falls. Like you run into like elephants and giraffe and shit on the road. Like people are annoyed by like they're fucking deer.
Yeah. So in my experience, I was in Morocco, and that's not. You're talking about just large gatherings of people.
Right. See, I didn't see any of that.
That's what Morocco was. And it was crazy and it was a good time. It was very interesting. And it was like...
But that's like still heavy French influence because that's like Morocco's like right across from
So I took
Spain, right?
I took a ferry from Spain to Morocco and then got lost in Morocco for a little while.
Okay.
And it's everything. So
and that's like Tunisia.
Tangier, Casablanca.
Right.
Chefchaouen. And I'm forgetting a couple places, but those are like the big spots. And then like the dunes, Chebi, I think that's how you say it. The big giant dunes. That's what I didn't get to do. That's one of the reasons why it's back on my list is because I want to go back to the dunes. But that is just like when you see these movies and they're in like these countries where they're like packed and they're like, Arab/African setting. That's what they're mimicking.
Yeah, it's all Morocco.
Yeah, because it's
just markets and
it's a lot. Like I
got no personal space. Yeah, and everything's loud.
I got off the ferry and the dude is like, "So you want hashish?
Fuck,
girl?" And I'm like, "Whoa!" I was like, "I'm trying,
man. I'm trying to romance me a little bit.
Can I get my visa stamp first?"
Yeah.
And so, but I had a blast. I like that place. I like. Okay. The problem was I didn't go with. I thought I had this like romantic notion of like just going and getting lost for 2 weeks.
That's not the place.
That's not the place, man.
No.
It's too much. It's too many. Like, just Tangier alone. Like, you could probably spend a couple days, and even though it's very kind of touristy, you could still probably spend a couple days in Tangier just falling prey to all that it has. Because like it used to be like the international city. That's where they used to go. Like
yeah, it's like that. Istanbul and Constantinople.
It was like off limits during World War II. So everybody would go there. Rockers used to party. Hemingway used to party there. Like, man. So it's definitely one of those spots. But like getting to Zimbabwe, where else? I was reading about professional hunters out there, and that's what I was thinking about going and visiting too, man.
Okay.
So, yeah, there's definitely a lot of spots, but yeah, let's definitely talk about this, like, because the more I think about, one, I thought about it before your trip on the West Coast. Mm-hmm. I'd been thinking about it for a while, but I was just like, man, I don't know who I'm going to go with or how I'm going to set this up. And then when I saw it, I was like, this has to happen.
Yeah, I've watched lots of motorcycle videos from that area.
Yeah, I was like, between that and then even when I read McConaughey's book, and he talks about his European motorcycle trip, and I was like, yeah, these two things are.
Yeah, it's been on my bucket list forever. Look, let's call it a wrap. I need to take a piss, and then I'm hungry.
I'm down.
Yeah. So, know that that's just out of nowhere, but that's the truth.
Yeah.
I imagine we're pretty good time.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're like 3 hours, 20 minutes in.
Yeah. So, man, where can everyone find all your stuff? Talk about Warpath.
On Instagram, Traveling Man, and We Are Warpath. That's the Instagram page as well. WeAreWarpath.com. We just did a pre-sale. We'll be putting some of the more of that gear back up for sale, but it won't be a pre-sale at this time. And then we'll have some new drops here shortly.
Killer. All right. Thank you guys for listening to the show. We will talk to you next week.